Chapter 42-47 Red-eyed green-furred turtle Yun Chujia's tone suddenly became stern. If the sword technique conference doesn't take place, who will suffer the greatest loss? Don't you have any idea? They just casually put some bait and you're going to take the bait? Where's your brain? If the sword technique conference doesn't take place, be it the Nameless Sword Sect or the Flying Flower Island, it will still be the 6 great sections. However, you will never have the chance to see a high-quality sword again, and you will never have the chance to hear a lecture from a mighty figure. And you will never have the channels to get answers from them. Is this the result you want? Everyone was dumbfounded when they heard this. That's right, was this the result they wanted? If the sword technique conference was no longer held, wouldn't they become the ultimate victims? Hence, everyone glared angrily at the hecklers, completely forgetting that they were also accomplices in the past. The triangular-eyed old man did not expect Yun Chujio to turn the situation around so quickly. Just as he was about to say something, Yun Chujia's clear voice rang out again. San Jiaoyan, I'm sorry, but I have to apologize. By the way, this hypocrite is still talking about how I killed He Hongchuan yesterday. I was not willing to defend myself, but now I can only say it. If He Hongchuan did not have the intention to kill me first, I would not have killed him. But he wanted to kill me and I still endured it. That is not kindness in my heart, that is stupidity. As for who said that they didn't see He Hongchuan's intention to kill me, then go back and practice your eyes or else you'll embarrass yourself. Come, those who didn't see that he wanted to kill me, raise your hands and let me see. The corners of everyone's eyes twitched violently. You already said that you didn't see that it was embarrassing. Who else would be stupid enough to raise their hands? Seeing that no one raised their hands, Yun Chujio nodded in satisfaction and said, all right, now that the truth has been revealed and our internal conflicts have been resolved, it's time to deal with this hypocrite. Come, hypocrite, tell me, what are you trying to do by going through so much trouble? I just said so much but you didn't say a word. It's obvious that you have a guilty conscience. Do people like you not like to see others being good? Do you have the red-eye disease? If you have a disease, you should take your medicine. Don't come out and bark or else you'll get beaten up. The old man with the triangular eyes was so angry that he almost died. How could he not have anything to say? He clearly wanted to speak a few times, but he was suppressed by Yun Chujia's swift speed and clear voice. San Jiaoyan. With a gloomy face he said coldly, Yun Chujio, you've said so much. After all, your Nameless Sword Sect is still bullying others. Everyone is just afraid of revenge, so they don't dare to make a sound. Yun Chujio curled the corner of her mouth. I've explained it clearly and with sufficient evidence. You actually said that I'm bullying others? It seems that you're being unreasonable. Since you said so, fine, then I'm bullying others with my power. I'm just vicious. What do you want to do? Do you want to eliminate evil for the people? Come on, if you don't dare to make a move, you'll be a green-furred turtle. The kind of green-furred turtle? The veins on the triangular-eyed old man's forehead were popping up. Obviously he was extremely angry. He wished that he could kill Yun Chujio with a slap. However, there was still Elder Jia who was eyeing him like a tiger watching its prey. The triangular-eyed old man gritted his teeth and said coldly, Yun Chujio, let's wait and see. Justice is on the side. There will always be a time for you to get your retribution. Yun Chujio sneered, the law of heaven is clear? If there really is such a thing as retribution, then it should be a heavenly lightning strike to kill a red-eyed green-furred turtle like you. Boom. A heavenly lightning strike descended from the sky. Chapter 42-48 was about to vomit blood from He Xinjia's words. Even in his dreams, the triangular-eyed old man did not expect to be struck by lightning. He was struck squarely by it. Although he did not suffer any serious injuries, he was clearly stunned by the shock. The scene was deathly silent. At this moment, everyone was thinking, is this Yun Chujio a jinx? Why was the triangular-eyed old man struck by lightning with just a casual remark from San Jiaoyan? Or could it be that the triangular-eyed old man really had bad intentions, so he suffered retribution? Yun Chujio was also very confused. Okay? Her jinx skill was sometimes effective and sometimes not. After careful calculation, it seemed that she had not appeared for a long time. Today she actually reappeared in the martial arts world? However, what was the key point for her jinx skill to trigger? However, this guy would naturally not let go of such a good opportunity. He immediately put on a swindler's expression and said, Hypocrite, I advise you to turn over a new leaf in the future. Otherwise, I'm afraid it won't be a bolt of lightning. You might even be turned into ashes. The triangular-eyed old man was shocked, afraid, and hateful at the same time. For a moment he was actually unable to say a word. He gave Yun Chujio a vicious glance and jumped off the high platform. Everyone came back to their senses and gave him another round of sarcasm. What hypocrite! What green-eyed turtle! The triangular-eyed old man only felt his head buzzing. His chest felt stuffy and he spat out a mouthful of blood. After swallowing a few pills, he left in a hurry. Seeing this, Yun Chujio said to Elder Jia with a smile, "Elder Jia, please continue with your lecture. Give me back my chair. It's quite expensive." Elder Jia. He was convinced that Yun Chujio was stingy to this extent. However, he was convinced by Yun Chujio's eloquence. Just by relying on her eloquence, she was able to make the arrogant Sanjiayan old man vomit blood. It was simply heaven-defying. Yun Chujio put away her chair and jumped off the high platform. The crowd automatically made way for her. On one hand, she was a little embarrassed. On the other hand, it was because of the heavenly lightning just now. If she provoked this guy, she would casually make another heavenly lightning bolt. But there was nowhere to cry. Yun Chujio jumped to the wonton stall. She said with a smile, "Old man, my wontons aren't cold, right? How is it? I came back pretty quickly, right? If I didn't clean up the scum who scolded me halfway, I would definitely be faster than now." The old couple had just been watching the show and had no time to cook wontons. Now that they heard her question, they quickly began to cook wontons. The old man praised Yun Chujio and said, "It's strange. Why is the person from yesterday and today so bold? In the past, no one dared to offend the 6 great sects so brazenly." The speaker had no intention of listening. Yun Chujio frowned, then stood up and left in a hurry. The old couple looked baffled and could only stare at Yun Chujio's back in a daze. Yun Chujio soon arrived at the VIP seats. She didn't avoid it and said to Master Ouyang directly, "Master Ouyang, I feel that something is unusual. Whether it was He Hongchuan yesterday or Sanjiayan today, they were not just looking for trouble. Could they have been ordered by someone?" Master Ouyang and the others were also a little suspicious. The blood-devouring sword that He Hongchuan had brought out wasn't an ordinary sword. If he didn't have a motive, he wouldn't have brought it out so casually, and he wouldn't have cut Elder Duanmish's treasured sword in half. There was also that Sanjiayan elder. He was obviously inciting everyone to target the Nameless Sword sect and the Flying Flower Island, and even the 6 great sections. Could they really have been instigated by someone? Chapter 42-49 Humiliation. Master Ouyang, Island Master Qi, and the others discussed for a while before sending people to investigate the whereabouts of Sanjiayan while searching for some clues. However, they didn't obtain any results. Everyone thought, could it be that they were thinking too much? The next few days were all sword techniques competitions and nothing abnormal happened. Everyone put the previous matters aside for the time being. He Xinjiu was not the least bit interested in sword techniques competitions. On the last day of the sword technique conference, Xiao Yu went up the high platform with full confidence. Xiao Yu won 3 rounds in a row and was defeated by Zhuang Hong in the end. Zhuang Hong had been very unlucky recently. The last time in the Bewilderment Shadow Forest, he was badly injured by the group of iron-armored blood lizards. This time he was finally able to hold his head up high and was naturally very smug. Although Master Ouyang was very dissatisfied with Zhuang Hong's arrogance, seeing that he had won a few rounds in a row, his mood was still pretty good. No matter what, it was good that he had won. At this moment, a middle-aged man leaped onto the competition stage. Zhuang Hong sized up the middle-aged man a few times. He saw that the middle-aged man was at the 3rd layer of the nirvana of the spirit, while he was at the 4th layer of the nirvana of the spirit. His gaze revealed some disdain. "You really want to compete with me? Your spiritual power is inferior to mine, and your swordsmanship can't be compared to mine. I advise you to just admit defeat," Zhuang Hong said arrogantly. The middle-aged man revealed a hint of a cold smile. "If you can't beat me in a fight, then we'll talk about it after we fight." Zhuang Hong curled his lips. "Since you're asking for humiliation, then I'll grant you your wish." The two of them drew their swords and engaged in a fierce battle. In the beginning, Zhuang Hong had the absolute advantage, forcing the middle-aged man to the edge of the high platform several times. However, the situation quickly reversed, and the middle-aged man's sword technique suddenly became sharp. No matter what moves Zhuang Hong used, he was firmly restrained by the other party and soon fell into a disadvantageous position. The arrogance on Zhuang Hong's face had turned into panic. It shouldn't be. He used the space-shattering sword technique. Although it couldn't compare to the nameless sword technique that the elders practiced, it was still one of the best sword techniques. How could it be suppressed by the other party? Master Ouyang's expression changed slightly. He knew that Zhuang Hong was bound to lose. To be honest, although the middle-aged man's sword technique attainment wasn't bad, it wasn't that great. If Elder Duanmu and the others were to make a move, they could easily defeat him. But the problem was that the Sword Technique Conference didn't allow the elders to step onto the stage. The Nameless Sword sect had lost a lot of face this time. Zhuang Hong, as the successor disciple of the sect leader, had actually been defeated by a rogue cultivator. If this news were to spread out, he would have no face to face anyone in the future. A moment later, Zhuang Hong's right leg was stabbed by the middle-aged man, and he directly knelt on one leg on the stage. The middle-aged man then stabbed Zhuang Hong's left leg, and Zhuang Hong firmly knelt in front of the middle-aged man. The successor disciple of the Nameless Sword sect's sect leader is only SOSO. You've lost, go down. That person said disdainfully and did not make another move. Zhuang Hong was angry, embarrassed, and a little unwilling. When he thought of the embarrassing situation he would face when he returned to the sect, he almost wanted to die. Master Ouyang's expression was very ugly. That person deliberately stabbed Zhuang Hong's legs, which was to humiliate Zhuang Hong and the Nameless Sword sect. Although he was very angry, he could not leave Zhuang Hong on the stage and ignore him. He immediately got Chu Feng and the others to help Zhuang Hong down from the stage. When the middle-aged man saw Zhuang Hong being helped down from the stage, he said coldly, "Is there anyone else who wants to compete? Even the successor disciple of the Nameless Sword sect's sect master is no match for me. I reckon that no one would dare to come up and challenge me, right? If not, the champion of this Sword Technique Conference will be me." Chapter 4250. I am the last disciple of the master of the sect. Although Zhuang Hong was arrogant, he was one of the best among the successive disciples. Since he had already lost, the others would naturally not go up and suffer. Wan Qingba's spiritual power was higher than Zhuang Hong's, but he did not come this time, so none of the other successive disciples went up on the stage. Master Ouyang's face was so gloomy that it was about to drip. Although Xiao Yu from the Flying Flower Island had lost, the Flying Flower Island wasn't famous for sword arts, so it didn't matter. However, their Nameless Sword sect was different. It could be imagined that if such news was spread out, their Nameless Sword sect would simply make people laugh their heads off. Hei Xinjiu, who was watching the show at the wonton stall, rolled her eyes. A sinister smile suddenly appeared on her face, and she hopped out of the wonton stall. Yun Chujio squeezed through the crowd and arrived at the bottom of the stage. Just as the host was about to announce the results of the competition, she hurriedly shouted, Wait, I want to compete with him." Master Ouyang and the others were dumbfounded when they saw Yun Chujio step onto the stage. Wasn't she just rushing up to get beaten up? Even Zhuang Hong was no match for that middle-aged man. How could a small fry like her defeat the strong? That middle-aged man sized up Yun Chujio and said, "Even the successor disciple of your Nameless Sword sect master is no match for me. You, a trash at the second level of the spirit realm, want to compete with me?" Yun Chujio said with a smile, "So what if I'm at the second level of the spirit realm? Although I'm at the second level of the spirit realm, I'm still the successor disciple of the sect master. Moreover, I'm the last disciple. The sect master's sword technique has already been passed down to me. That Zhuang Hong is just a decoration." Master Ouyang almost fell to the ground when he heard that. When did he take her in as a successor disciple? Closed-door disciple? Nonsense. Shameless. Island Master Qi was also stunned. He looked at the stiff-faced Master Ouyang curiously. "Master Ouyang, did you really take that Yun Chujio in as a closed-door disciple? If that's the case, you can't take in other disciples in the future." Master Ouyang's heart was like a beeping dog. What bullshit last disciple? He had never taken her in at all, okay? However, he couldn't directly deny that Yun Chujio was a disciple of the Nameless Sword sect and had told such a big lie in front of everyone. In the end, the Nameless Sword sect was still the one who lost face. After all, that little girl was famous for being thick-skinned. Moreover, he still had a sliver of hope in his heart. If Yun Chujio could really defeat that middle-aged man, she could announce to the public that she was his disciple and save some face. Therefore, he pretended not to hear Island Master Qi's words and did not say anything. In this way he could attack, retreat, and defend. He would wait until the end of the competition to see the result. On the stage, Hei Xinjiu saw that Master Ouyang did not jump out to deny her words. She was very happy in her heart. She had been worried that the old man, Master Ouyang, would not let her go. Now she would kill him first and report to him later. Once the rice is cooked, the rice is cooked. Zhuang Hong, who was recuperating, heard Yun Chujio's words and was about to retort when Chu Feng, who was standing next to him, reacted quickly and knocked him out with a hand knife. Elder Gu saw everything clearly, and the corner of his eyes twitched. This disciple of his had always followed the rules and never done anything out of line. Now he actually dared to plot against Zhuang Hong. He must have been led astray by that little girl Yun Chujio. The middle-aged man on the competition stage was also shocked. However, he quickly said with disdain, "Is there no one left in your nameless sword sect, or is your sect master blind?" He actually took in a good-for-nothing like you as his last disciple. Chapter 4251 Sword Genius. I'm in a good mood now, so I want to argue with you. Come, let's do it. I'll poke a few holes in your body and then you can go back for dinner. Yun Chujio smiled like a flower. There was nothing she could do, she was in such a good mood. The middle-aged man snorted. You're boasting shamelessly. Since you're courting death, then you can't blame me. As soon as the middle-aged man finished his words, the sword in his hand stabbed towards Yun Chujio. Yo, you're really shameless. You actually attacked without saying anything. Fortunately, as the last disciple of the sect leader, I didn't give it to you for free. Otherwise, I would have really fallen into your trap, Hei Xingjiu said with a smile as she dodged. This guy's heart was black. She deliberately mentioned the matter of the last disciple time and time again. Even if it was fake, it had to become real. The middle-aged man naturally did not know the twists and turns here. He had only one goal, and that was to kill Yun Chujio. Therefore, his sword moves became more and more fierce, even more fierce than when he was dealing with Zhuang Hong. Although Yun Chujio was laughing and laughing on the surface, she did not dare to relax the slightest bit in her heart. If she were to fight seriously, her spiritual power was too low and she had almost no chance of winning. She had to find another way to do it. She remembered that when she was competing with Liao Tao, she had defeated her opponent at the critical moment by using her sword intent. Now that she had mastered 3 layers of sword intent, if she could successfully stack them, she could totally trick her opponent. However, before that, she had to try the slow sword intent that she had just comprehended. Thinking of this, Yun Chujio's movement technique was still very fast, but her sword moves had become slow. There was almost no movement to attack, and she had been relying on her movement technique to dodge. The crowd below the stage discussed animatedly, although this Yun Chujio's movement technique is exceptionally fast, but after dodging and dodging like this, the final result is still certain to be a loss. TSK, a second level and third level of Lingji can't be compared at all, okay? I don't know how the nameless sword sect's Master Ouyang took in such a trash disciple, but I've never heard that she was Master Ouyang's last disciple before? This is still hard to understand. Such a useless disciple, how could Master Ouyang have the face to be someone else? If this Yun Chujio wasn't the last disciple of Master Ouyang, how could she act so arrogantly? I heard that she used the talisman to blow up many successive disciples. Master Ouyang's heart was on fire in the VIP seats. On one hand, he was angry because of Yun Chujio's shamelessness. On the other hand, he hoped that Yun Chujio could create a miracle. But could she really do it? As he watched, Master Ouyang's face revealed a shocked expression. He saw that Yun Chujio's slow thrusts were all flaws of the middle-aged man. Not only that, Yun Chujio's body was already surrounded by sword intent. Could this be the legendary slow sword intent that was difficult to comprehend? At the same time, the others also realized this. Elder Gu exclaimed, "It's the slow sword intent." She actually comprehended the slow sword intent. Heavens, this little girl had already comprehended the chaotic sword intent and the fast sword intent. She actually comprehended the slow sword intent in such a short period of time. Doesn't that mean that she has already grasped 3 types of sword intent? She really is a genius in sword arts. Sect Master, as expected, your eyes are as sharp as torches. Elder Duanmu was so depressed that he wanted to vomit blood. He had clearly taken a liking to this little girl first, alright? However, she was still unable to infuse her sword intent into her body, so she had not accepted her as a disciple. If she had known this would happen, she would have struck first. Chapter 4252 was the first place Elder Duanmu remembered that he had once defeated Yun Chujio. He said that the fast sword intent and the slow sword intent were opposites. It was impossible for a person to master both sword intents at the same time. He suddenly felt his face hurt. However, although Master Ouyang and the others were surprised by Yun Chujio's talent, they still felt that there was almost no hope for her to win. After all, the difference in spiritual power was too big. The middle-aged man thought the same. Although he was surprised that Yun Chujio had mastered the slow sword intent, he was not too worried. He felt that it was only a matter of time before she won. As expected, as time passed, Yun Chujio's movement began to slow down. She could not even maintain her sword intent. She was forced to retreat by the middle-aged man. At this moment Yun Chujia's forehead was full of sweat. She began to gasp for breath. Anyone would think that she was already at the end of her rope and would be defeated soon. At this moment Yun Chujio lost her balance and fell to the ground. The middle-aged man's eyes flashed with viciousness as he stabbed the sword in his hand towards Yun Chujio. Master Ouyang and the others stood up in shock. Even if they wanted to save her, it was too late. It was over. Even if the little girl didn't die, she would probably be seriously injured. Elder Dongfang's eyes flashed. He remembered the last time when Yun Chujio and Liao Tao fought. It was very similar to this scene. At that time, Yun Chujio used the superposition of sword intent to block Liao Tao's attack. This time it should be possible. However, he didn't know if she could superposition 3 layers of sword intent. At this moment, the middle-aged man's sword tip was only 3 feet away from Yun Chujio, but it was blocked by a layer of sword intent that seemed to have substance. The middle-aged man's lips curled into a cold smile. A mere sword intent still wanted to block him? Dream on. He increased his strength and the sword tip quickly pierced through the sword intent. Just when he thought he was about to succeed, the sword tip was blocked by another layer of sword intent, and it was even stronger than the previous sword intent. His face revealed a stunned expression. What was going on? Just as he was stunned, he stumbled. Before he could react, Yun Chujio's sword had already pierced his left chest. Yun Chujio did not use a large kitchen knife in this competition. Although the large kitchen knife was powerful, it was too short. She was at a disadvantage when fighting with the sword wielder, so she casually took out a sword. The middle-aged man's reaction was fast enough. He jumped out of Yun Chujio's attack range almost the instant he was stabbed by Yun Chujio. Although he was unwilling, he was already injured. Even if he fought again, he would not be Yun Chujio's opponent. Therefore he said coldly, "I admit defeat. We will meet again." After the middle-aged man finished speaking, he did not wait for Yun Chujio to reply. He directly jumped down the high platform and squeezed out of the crowd to leave in a hurry. Yun Chujio wanted to go down the platform to chase after San Jiaoyan because she felt that this person was very likely to be on the same side as the old man with the triangular eyes. However, she was stopped by the host. The host asked if there were still people who wanted to challenge her. If there weren't any, the first place in this sword technique conference would be Yun Chujio. The onlookers shook their heads like rattle drums. Although this Yun Chujio's spiritual power wasn't that great, her swordsmanship was indeed not bad. Most importantly, she had a belly full of evil water. It was better not to provoke her. Moreover, she was the last disciple of Master Ouyang. With this guy's character, if he offended her, he might not necessarily take revenge. In the end, He Xingjiu became the champion of this year's sword technique conference. Chapter 4253 confirmed her identity. He Xingjiu also felt that she was pretty awesome. She was originally just a bystander, but in the end, she became the champion. Don't you think it's infuriating? At this time, Zhuang Hong had already woken up. When he saw Yun Chujio, who was smiling like a flower on the stage, he almost spat out a mouthful of blood. It was one thing for Yun Chujio to steal his limelight, but she actually shamelessly claimed that she was Master's last disciple? He would never let her have her way. Thus, he shouted in exasperation, "All of you have been deceived by her. She is not my Master's last disciple at all, she is lying." Zhuang Hong's words immediately caused an uproar, and Master Ouyang nearly fainted from anger. Originally, it would have been fine if no one brought this matter up again. When the time came, he would pretend to be muddle-headed, and Yun Chujio, a mere disciple, could not really force him. But now this fool actually shouted out again. Wasn't this forcing him to admit it? Not admit it? What a joke. Yun Chujio finally managed to pick up the reputation of the broken nameless sword sect. Could it be that he wanted to slap himself in the face? Thus, before Yun Chujio could say anything, Master Ouyang said coldly, "Everyone, Yun Chujio is indeed my last disciple." As for Zhuang Hong, he was injured so badly that he lost his mind, so he spouted nonsense. "Everyone, don't take it to heart." Zhuang Hong couldn't believe his ears. The master of the sect had really accepted Yun Chujio as his disciple? Under the huge blow, he fainted again. On the stage, Yun Chujio was very happy. Old man Ouyang had confirmed her identity in public, and she had become the successor disciple of the sect master. Beautiful. However, when this fellow saw that the prize was only a few bottles of pills and some spirit stones, he was a little disappointed. However, it was a waste of time anyway, so he just accepted it. After the award ceremony, this year's sword technique conference came to an end. Yun Chujio jumped in front of sect master Ouyang and bowed to her freshly baked master. Master, little Jiu pays her respects to you. Sect Master Ouyang's heart was like a muttering dog. He had heard of people who were forced to accept disciples, but this was the first time he had heard of someone who was forced to be a master. However, under the watchful eyes of everyone he couldn't say anything. He could only squeeze out an amiable smile and say, "Disciple, you performed well today. Your master is very satisfied." Yun Chujio tilted her head and said with a smile, "Master, since you are so satisfied, shouldn't you reward me with some good things?" Sect Master Ouyang. He knew that he couldn't accept this disciple. He had just accepted it and now he was asking for something from him. Wouldn't he have to plunder all the good things from me in the future? He wanted to not give it to her, but he couldn't keep his pride. He could only take out a low-grade defensive immortal artifact and give it to Hei Shinjio. When Hei Shinjio saw that it was a low-grade immortal artifact, his smile became even brighter. He followed behind Master Ouyang and called him Master sweetly. Elder Duanmu felt sour in his heart. He was so regretful that his intestines turned green. However, since things had come to this point, there was no point in regretting. Yun Chujio originally wanted to greet the old couple who sold wontons, but the old couple was probably worried that there would be too many people at the end of the conference, so they had already packed up and left. This fellow had no choice but to give up. As it was close to evening, most of the people decided to set off the next morning. After arriving at the inn and having dinner, Yun Chujio had just entered her room when Chu Fang came in with a distressed expression. He even specially locked the door from the inside. Yun Chujio looked puzzled. "Senior brother Chu, what's the matter?" Chapter 4254. Seniority Chu Fang only sat on the chair, sighing and not saying a word. Yun Chujio could not help but laugh. "Senior brother Chu, you came here to sigh? If you have nothing else to do, then leave. I'm still waiting for a rest." Chu Fang's mouth opened and closed, he gritted his teeth and said, "Junior Sister Yun, Island Master Chi has already spoken. He firmly disagrees with the matter between her and me, saying that she can only marry a disciple of the Flying Flower Island. Moreover, he also said that if he finds out that we are meeting privately in the future, he will expel her from the Flying Flower Island and not acknowledge her as his disciple." Although Yun Chujio knew that Island Master Chi looked down on Chu Fang, she did not expect that he would be so unyielding this time. It seemed that he had made up his mind. Seeing that Yun Chujio did not speak, Chu Fang's heart became even colder. If Junior Sister Yun could not do anything about it, then there was really nothing he could do. "About this matter of yours, you can't be too hasty. You have to wait for the right time. Besides, he said that you're not allowed to meet in private. Then next time you can meet openly. That old thing will die of anger." Yun Chujio said with a grin. "Chu Fang, how can this be?" Seeing Chu Fang's hopeless look, Yun Chujio couldn't help but laugh. "Senior brother Chu, don't worry. As long as you coax Little Moon to be happy, that Island Master Chi won't be a problem at all. Sooner or later he'll agree to your matter." Hearing this, Chu Fang heaved a sigh of relief in his heart. Anyway, there was still a long way to go, so he would slowly think of a way in the future. Chu Fang temporarily put this matter aside and forced a smile. "Junior Sister Yun, I haven't congratulated you yet. You'll be the sect master's last disciple from now on." Yun Chujio said smugly, "That's easy to say, that's easy to say. If there's anything in the future, I'll take care of you. However, I found a problem. Should I call Zhuang Hong martial uncle or senior brother in the future? Isn't the way we address each other in the sect a little chaotic?" Chu Fang was stunned, but after thinking about it, it was true. The successive disciples of the Nameless Sword sect were not from the same batch of disciples, so they were all successive disciples with different seniority. However, most elders only accepted one disciple, and even if they accepted two disciples, they were all from the same batch of disciples. There was really no example like Zhuang Hong and Yun Chujio. Previously, everyone had called them randomly and no one had noticed. Moreover, the elders were addressed as so-and-so elders, so it did not involve the issue of seniority. Now that Yun Chujio said this, it did not seem too good. For example, if he addressed Zhuang Hong as Uncle Master Zhuang Hong, wouldn't Zhuang Hong have the same seniority as his master, Elder Gu? It was simply a mess. Yun Chujio curled her lips. "It's not that I want to say it, but my master is very busy every day. Naturally, he would not think of such small matters. In the future, I will reluctantly help him. I will handle some of the sect's matters." Chu Fang, so after talking for so long, her ultimate goal was to divide the power. However, it was too difficult. Not to mention other things, the sect wouldn't let a female disciple take over the power. No matter how bad junior sister Yun was, she probably wouldn't be able to use it. Just as Chu Fong was thinking. Yun Chujio said sneakily, let's not talk about this first. Senior brother Chu, tell me, how did you hook up with Little Moon? Did you hook up with her after I went missing? Tell me. Chu Fang's face immediately turned red and he mumbled, no, there's nothing to tell. Senior brother Chu, it's not right for you to do this. If you don't tell me some details, how can I help you convince Island Master Chi? Since you don't want to tell me, then fine, I won't care about your matters anymore. Hei Shinjio pouted and said. Chapter 4255 Ex-fiancé, you're here? Chu Fang saw that Yun Chujio was about to give up, so he quickly said, ill talk, ill talk. After you disappeared that day, Chu Fang and Yun Chujio began to tell the story of his relationship with Xiao Yu. On the other side, Master Ouyang and the others were drinking tea on the first floor and discussing the sword technique conference. At this moment, a man in white walked in from the door. Master Ouyang and the others were shocked and stood up. There was no other reason. The aura of the person who came was too strong. Even they felt a great sense of danger. Master Ouyang and the others did not have the time to look at the man's appearance. The man's cold voice sounded, I am Yun Chujio's fiancé. Where is she? Everyone was dumbfounded. What the hell? Yun Chujio's fiancé? He was Yun Chujio's fiancé? In the past they had heard that little girl brag about how awesome her fiancé was. At that time, everyone thought that she was bragging. They thought that she was simply stupid to give up Tower Master Luochen for her so-called fiancé. However, now that they saw it, yes, they were stupid. Although Tower Master Luochen was extraordinary, the gap between him and the man in front of him was still very obvious. How should they put it? The aura of the man in front of them was his own aura. And the aura of Tower Master Luochen was more or less borrowed from the power of the 9 pavilions. D. Biming's heart sank when he saw that this bunch of idiots in front of him actually didn't make a sound. Could it be that these people all knew about Little 9 and that little sweetheart? So they deliberately hid it? When D. Biming thought of this, the aura on his body became even more threatening. Master Ouyang's forehead couldn't help but sweat profusely. He hurriedly said, This young master, little Jiu, is upstairs. I will bring you up now. When D. Biming heard this, he nodded slightly. The aura on his body was slightly restrained. Master Ouyang immediately led D. Biming upstairs with a bitter expression. Elder Jiu and the others followed behind him. D. Biming frowned but didn't say anything. Master Ouyang and the others hadn't even reached the door of Yun Chujio's room when they heard Yun Chujio giggle. Senior brother Chu, you are quite tender and tender at the critical moment. You are much better than my scumbag fiancé. Master Ouyang, disciple, ancestor, are you unlucky? Why did you have to say such words at this moment? Your scumbag fiancé is going to freeze your newly made master into an ice sculpture. At this moment, Chu Fang said with a smile, Junior sister Yun, it's not that senior brother is boasting, but at the crucial moment, senior brother is much more reliable than your fiancé. 2 words flashed through Master Ouyang's mind, courting death. This Chu Fang was courting death with his strength. D. Biming's face was frighteningly gloomy. He stretched out his hand to push the door, but it didn't budge. It was actually locked inside? A certain honored master couldn't suppress his anger anymore. A man and a woman had even locked the door. What on earth were they doing? Bang. A certain someone smashed the door with his palm. Hei Shinjio and Chu Fang, who were chatting and laughing inside, looked at the door in confusion. Yun Chujio looked at D. Biming's gloomy face that looked like a dead man and swallowed her saliva. She stretched out her claws and said weakly, Ex-fiancé, you're here? Ex-fiancé? A cold smile appeared on the corner of a certain someone's mouth. He ignored Yun Chujio and looked at Chu Fang, who had a dumbfounded look on his face. What the hell was that pointy mouth and monkey cheeks? Putting everything else aside, there was something wrong with the name. It was both Chu and Fang. Was it gay or straight? Chapter 4256. My little darling. Chu Fang was first intimidated by D. Biming's pressure, and second he felt goosebumps when D. Biming looked at him like he was looking at a dead person. His legs could not help but go weak and he staggered and almost fell to the ground. Yun Chujio subconsciously went to help him, but before her hand touched Chu Fang, the poor kid, flew out of the back window with a whoosh. Elder Gu grinned. This was the 2nd floor. Although he was a cultivator, his stupid disciple was scared silly. He might have forgotten to ride his sword. Yun Chujio glared at D. Biming. What are you doing? Why did you slap senior brother Chu away for no reason? Are you sick again? Or did you not take your medicine when you went out? Di Biming looked at her deeply, then grabbed her waist and jumped out of the second-floor window. He Xingjiu dared to say that just now because of the presence of Master Ouyang and the others. Seeing that Di Biming was going to take her away, she immediately wailed, "Master, help! Master, you can't just ignore your precious disciple. Master, you can't just leave her to die." Master Ouyang, huh? Why did his ears suddenly stop working? His eyes also stopped working. He couldn't hear or see anything. Elder Duanmu and the others didn't move either. What a joke. Why would they get involved in the affairs of a couple? Besides, if they got involved they would be tortured to death. Unless they had water in their heads, they would only ask for trouble. Speaking of which, Yun Chujia's fiancé was so powerful. How come they had never heard of him before? It was really strange. On the other side, He Xingjiu was brought out of the city by a certain deity. On the way she even piqued Kufang, who was badly bruised. Di Biming pointed at the miserable Chu Fang and asked, "Is he the little darling you mentioned?" Yun Chujiu shrunk her neck and looked at the dumbfounded Chu Fang with a look of reluctance. She said, "No, he is the little darling of the little moon. It has nothing to do with me." Chu Fang finally felt blessed. He felt that he was most likely misunderstood as an adulterer. He quickly shouted, "Yes, yes, I like Xiaoyu from the Flying Flower Island. Why would I like junior sister Yun? She is ruthless and full of evil intentions. If I marry her, I'm afraid that she will kill me without anyone knowing." Yun Chujiu gritted her teeth. The guilt in her heart was instantly fed to the dogs. Di Biming glanced at Chu Fang. Seeing that what he said did not seem to be a lie, he snorted coldly and waved his sleeve. Scram! The pitiful Chu Fang flew out again. Fortunately, he had experience this time. Halfway through, he thought of riding a sword and disappeared without a trace. "Where are you going?" Di Biming said coldly. He Xingjiu, who was about to escape, touched her nose guiltily. "I don't want to go anywhere. HMM, why are you looking for me?" "Who's little darling?" Little darling is... Yun Chujiu planned to take out one of the dumb cubs from the spiritual beast bag to fill in the numbers. However, those dumb cubs kneeled on the ground and kowtowed non-stop. "Little fairy master, please spare us. If we go out, we will die without a complete corpse." Yun Chujiu, "Good, very good, these ingrates." Yun Chujiu wanted to release the puppets again. This time, even those drifters squeezed out a word, "No." Yun Chujiu, this fellow really had no choice. In the end, he took out the big black pot, rubbed his hands and laughed dryly. "This is my little darling. As the saying goes, you are my heart, you are my liver, you are my big black pot." Chapter 4257, You Can Call Me Black-Eyed Wolf. Di Biming looked at the big black pot and sneered, "It's your little darling?" He Xingjiu braced herself and said, "Yes, I named it Little Darling. It's always called Big Black Pot." Di Biming's voice became colder. "Even if it's Little Darling, what about your ex-fiancé?" Ex-fiancé. He Xingjiu kicked the pebble on the ground with the tip of her foot and stammered, not knowing how to explain it. Di Biming looked at Yun Chujia's rolling eyes and did not rush her. He wanted to hear how she wanted to smooth things over in the end. He Xingjiu finally thought of an excuse and said slyly, "Ex-fiancé, that's right, you are my ex-fiancé. Because in my heart, you are already my husband, so naturally you are not my fiancé." He Xingjiu secretly gave herself a 360-degree like that had no blind spots. This excuse was absolutely flawless. Although Di Biming knew that Yun Chujiu was giving him an excuse, he had to admit that when he heard the word husband, his heart felt weak. However, when he thought of the short time and poor skill on the recording stone, his face immediately darkened. He squeezed out a sentence from between his teeth, "Then how do you explain the short time and poor skill?" He Xingjiu shrunk her neck and cursed in her heart, "Humph, if I didn't say that, would you have run over here without any hesitation?" Besides, he had never tried it before. Maybe it was really the short time and poor technique. Of course, only a fool would say what he was thinking. He blinked his eyes and said, "Short time? Poor technique? I mean, when you massaged my shoulders, not only was the time short but your technique was also poor. Is there a problem?" Di Biming was furious. Massaging his shoulders? Then, how do you explain the last sentence that failed to make you pregnant after so many years? It's not easy to explain. If I wanted to be pregnant, I would be pregnant too. How could it be a baby? I've heard of piglets and puppies, but I've never heard of human babies. Di Biming sneered. He had finally seen what it meant to lie with his eyes wide open. Even if you can explain the first part, how do you explain the breakup fee and the ingrate at the end? Hei Shinjio really could not find any excuses. She simply started to act shamelessly. I'm just playing with you. If you're angry, you can call me an ingrate. Even if you call me a black-eyed wolf, I won't be angry. It's just a title, what's the big deal? Di Biming looked at Yun Chujia's scoundrel-like appearance. Even if he gritted his teeth in hatred, there was nothing he could do. Beat her? Of course he couldn't bear to. Scold her? It didn't seem to be of any use to this little scoundrel. He couldn't hit her, he couldn't scold her, so he could only use the old method, and kiss her. Hei Shinjio was dizzy from the kiss. 2 words flashed through her mind. Done. When the two of them were kissing passionately, Di Biming suddenly covered Yun Chujia's mouth. The two of them hid behind a bush. Hei Xinjia's face was red, and she looked at Di Biming in confusion. Di Biming's throat tightened and he closed his eyes before he mouthed, "Someone is coming?" Yun Chujio was stunned. Who would come here in the middle of the night? Yun Chujio looked out through the gap in the bush. After a while she saw many masked men gathering in this direction. The leader said, "Search. Yun Chujio and Di Biming must be nearby. Yun Chujio captured them alive. Di Biming will kill them without mercy." Chapter 4258 was about Meilon Luli again. Yun Chujio was shocked. Who were these people? Why were they so familiar with her and the gigolo's whereabouts? Obviously someone had tipped them off. The place where the two of them were hiding was not safe. They would probably be discovered soon. Di Biming's eyes flashed with a trace of sternness. He gave Yun Chujio a look indicating for her to stay here. He went out to send them away. Although his spiritual power was suppressed in the towering sky continent, it was not a problem for him to take care of these people. Di Biming's figure suddenly flashed. The two people closest to the bushes had already been killed by him. With another flash, another 2 people fell to the ground. Following Di Biming's ghostly figure, there was soon a pile of corpses on the ground. Hei Shinjio was speechless. Damn, the gigolo was getting more and more powerful. This was a killer weapon that would never fail. The leader obviously did not expect Di Biming's spiritual power to be so terrifying. He suddenly remembered something. He took out several items that were shimmering with a faint blue light from his storage ring and threw them at Di Biming, who was fighting. Di Biming used his palm wind to smash those items into pieces. However, the next moment he knew that he had fallen into a trap. Di Biming felt that the spiritual power in his body was rapidly depleting. Moreover, the cold poison that had not relapsed for a long time had also relapsed. The person who was hurling at him was actually the blue marble. How did these people know that the blue marble was his weakness? Where did they get so many blue marble? Hei Shinjio, who was hiding behind the bushes, secretly cried out. The pretty boy had been tricked. These masked men not only had high spiritual power, but there were also many of them. If the pretty boy had not been tricked, he could have easily taken care of these dregs. However, the current situation was too disadvantageous for them. Yun Chujio thought of this and was about to go out to help, but Di Biming flashed in front of her and held her waist. The aura on his body suddenly soared, and he released an ice dragon to repel the masked men's attack. Then he brought Yun Chujio and rushed towards the direction of Azure Cloud City. There were cultivators from the 6 sects gathered in Azure Cloud City. These masked men would definitely not dare to follow them in. Therefore, as long as they entered Azure Cloud City, they would be temporarily safe. Yun Chujio saw that Di Biming's face was getting paler and paler. There were even ice shards appearing on his hair. She knew that Di Biming's cold poison was acting up again. She hated those masked men to death. She kept throwing talismans at them, regardless of whether they were high-level talismans or low-level talismans. Sacks after sacks of talismans were thrown out. Those masked men were unlucky. The few people who were chasing at the front were blown to pieces. Although the people at the back were on guard and avoided the talismans, they also slowed down and watched as Di Biming and Yun Chujio entered the Yunsang City. The leader gritted his teeth. There was a large group of cultivators in Yunsang City now. Even if they chased after them, they would not gain anything. Di Biming had already fallen into the trap anyway. There were many other ways to kill him. Hence, he waved his hand and left with the masked men. Yun Chujio saw that the people did not chase after them and heaved a sigh of relief. However, when she saw Di Biming beside her, her heart could not help but sink. Di Biming's body was already covered in a layer of ice, and his spiritual power level was dropping rapidly. It had even dropped to the spiritual power level. She could not care about anything else. She took out a rolling pin and smashed the ice on Di Biming's body. Then she was going to cut her wrist and use her blood to help Di Biming resist the cold poison. Chapter 4259. Are you injured? Unexpectedly, Di Biming suddenly opened his eyes and said with great effort, "No need. I can hold it." Hei Shinjio saw that he was still stubborn at this time, so she angrily gave him a rolling pin. Unexpectedly, Di Biming wanted to stand up and stay away from her so that she wouldn't insist on feeding him blood. Coincidentally, the rolling pin landed on Di Biming's forehead. Di Biming was already at the end of his tether. This rolling pin became the straw that broke the camel's back and he passed out. Yun Chujio, was she trying to murder her husband? However, passing out was just the right time to prevent him from refusing to drink the blood. Yun Chujio was about to draw her blood when she saw Di Biming's body emitting a dazzling light. Then she saw a small silver snake on the ground. It was a small silver snake that was frozen stiff. Yun Chujio was stunned for a moment before she understood. Di Biming's spiritual power had soared for a moment before he managed to get rid of those masked men. He must have used a secret technique, so the side effect was that he had turned into a small silver snake again. However, this was also good. At least she could bring him along with her so that he wouldn't attract any attention. At the same time, she could save his life. She didn't believe that those masked men would dare to openly oppose the nameless sword sect. Yun Chujio thought of this and looked at the frozen silver snake. She felt a little troubled. She could not set fire to it, right? In the end, she gritted her teeth and stuffed the silver snake into her clothes. The bone-piercing chill made this fellow shiver. However, she saw that the effect was not bad, so she could only shiver as she walked towards the inn. The inn was brightly lit. Master Ouyang and the others were obviously not asleep. Or rather, this group of old men were all waiting curiously for the follow-up. Elder Duanmu frowned and said, "The little girl's fiancé looks too cold. He won't do anything to the little girl, right?" Elder Dongfang smiled and said, "Don't worry. That little girl is full of schemes. She will be fine." Elder Gu echoed, "That's right. They are a young couple. It will be fine once the misunderstanding is resolved. Moreover, I don't think the little girl's fiancé is an unreasonable person." Chu Fong, whose face was badly bruised, "Are you my own master? Your disciple has been thrown to such a state? And you are still speaking for him?" As everyone was discussing, they saw Yun Chujio walking in from outside, trembling. Everyone thought to themselves, "It seems that this little girl has been taught a good lesson. Otherwise she wouldn't still be trembling in fear." Master Ouyang coughed lightly and asked, "Little Nine, where's your fiancé?" Yun Chujio squeezed out a smile and said, "He has something to do and has to leave first." "Well, if there's nothing else, I'll go back to my room first." Master Ouyang saw that she didn't look too good, so he waved his hand. Anyway, it wasn't an urgent matter, so it wouldn't be too late to ask tomorrow. At this time, Chu Fang cried out in surprise, "Junior Sister Yun, why is there blood on your clothes? Are you injured?" Yun Chujio looked down in confusion and saw a small blood stain on her chest, and it was still spinning. She was shocked. Could it be that the gigolo had vomited blood? She did not have time to say anything and rushed back to her room. Yun Chujio closed the door and quickly took out the small silver snake from her clothes. It was still cold in her hands, but it was no longer frozen. Hei Shinjio saw that the small silver snake's nose was still bleeding. She was so angry that she threw the small silver snake directly onto the bed. A certain being who was bleeding from his nose could be considered to hate Chu Fang. It was not easy to have a chance to have intimate contact with his wife, but it was interrupted by him. That thing that did not know whether it was straight or gay was really detestable. Chapter 4260. Red Glass. Yun Chujio was already speechless from anger. Men were indeed animals that leaned on the lower half of their bodies to think, and the gigolo was no exception. Even at this time he still had the mood to take advantage of her. Shameless. Shameless. She was both embarrassed and angry. Previously, the situation was urgent, so she did not think too much and directly put the small silver snake into her arms. Who would have thought that this pervert actually had a nosebleed? He must be thinking of something good. She realized that once the pretty boy turned into a snake, he would become shameless. She glared at the small silver snake on the bed and found that its body was covered with a layer of ice. She wanted to ignore it, but she could not bear to do so. She could only get a simple hot water bag and put it under the quilt. Then she stuffed the small silver snake in. The small silver snake gritted its teeth weakly. Wait for that thing that could be straight or bent. After Yun Chujio changed her clothes, she lifted the blanket and saw that the little silver snake was in better condition. She said, "What do you think about this matter? Who do you think did it?" A certain lord coldly snorted, "It's most likely Lan Luchen's doing." Otherwise, that person wouldn't have said that he wanted to capture you alive and wanted to kill me. Moreover, back then the Lihan Palace had once searched for Meilong glaze in the Yulon Valley. It looks like it's not a coincidence. They really know that Meilong glaze can trigger the cold poison in my body. Yun Chujio nodded. If it was the people from the 9 pavilions, they could also explain why they knew about debaiming. It was because the inn where the 9 pavilions stayed was right across from them. Hence, they knew that debaiming had brought her away previously. However, how did they gather so many people so quickly? Could it be that they were all disciples who had come to participate in the sword technique conference? Yun Chujio recalled the incident where a certain man had turned into a snake and asked, "Did you use a secret technique again? Is that why you became like this?" A certain man did not deny it. In that situation, if he had not used a secret technique, it would have been very difficult for the two of them to escape unscathed. Yun Chujio instantly felt that the pretty boy was actually quite bitter. Although he had the spiritual power to fight against the heavens and the earth, there was a cold poison in his body that would flare up from time to time. Not to mention other things, the blue-colored glass was enough to take his life. Is there no way to solve the blue marble? Yun Chujio sighed and asked. It's not that there's no way. Once the cold poison in your body is solved, you naturally won't be afraid of the blue marble, a certain being said faintly. Yun Chujio poked the head of the small silver snake in a bad mood. You're just spouting nonsense. It's like you didn't say anything. Is there any other way? Debaiming hesitated for a moment and said, there is another way. If we can find the fiery red glass for cultivation, the blue succulent glass will no longer trigger the cold poison. However, I have read many books and asked Shui Wuji and Infeng to investigate. There is no news about the fiery red glass. Perhaps it has gone extinct. Yun Chujio comforted him. Everything in this world is mutually reinforcing and counteracting each other. Since the blue succulent glass has appeared, the fiery red glass must still exist. There will be news eventually. Debaiming acknowledged and then said, I was careless this time. If I knew that they had the sapphire blue glaze, I wouldn't have fallen for it when I was using my spiritual energy shield during the fight. Debaiming was a little annoyed. Originally, he was aggressive and came to settle the score with the little rascal. Now he had become a little silver snake. Not only did he delay the official business, but he had lost all face and dignity. Chapter 4261. The suicidal Chu Feng. Yun Chujio comforted her a few more times and suddenly remembered what Shui Wuji had said to her. She picked up the silver snake skin and asked with a smile, the head of the black chicken told me that you have to put aside the feelings between men and women. Even if you marry me in the future, you will only treat me as a decoration. Is there such a thing? Debaiming gritted his teeth. He hated Shui Wuji as well. He explained, I do want to put aside the feelings between man and woman for the time being. After all, the most important thing now is to improve my strength. However, I didn't say anything about treating you as a decoration. Don't listen to Wu Jia's nonsense. Yun Chujio frowned when she heard that. There was one good thing about a gigolo. He said what he said and said what he said. He would not lie. So, was Shui Wuji lying to her? She thought back to Shui Wuji's words and actions and gritted her teeth. The last few sentences were probably made up by that random Shui Wuji in order to attract her attention. She was too angry at that time, so she did not see through his little trick. Yun Chujio was about to speak when Chu Feng's voice came from outside the room. Junior Sister Yun, can I go in? The small silver snake's vertical pupils immediately flashed with a faint light. What was this bent and straight idiot doing here again? Yun Chujio stuffed the small silver snake into the quilt and then opened the door. Chu Feng sized up Yun Chujio. Seeing that she was fine, he heaved a sigh of relief. Junior Sister Yun, are you okay? I'm fine. There's not blood on my clothes. It's stained with something else. Yun Chujio originally wanted to send Chu Feng away with a few words, but seeing that he had entered the room by himself, she could only close the door and walk to the table to sit down. Chu Feng lowered his voice and asked, Junior Sister Yun, is your fiancé really gone? You're not lying to me, right? Yun Chujio nodded. Yes, he's gone. He has other things to do. Chu Feng suddenly seemed to relax a lot. He raised his voice and said, I'm not saying this, Junior Sister Yun, but your fiancé is too rude. He threw me down from the second floor without even asking for the truth. Look at what he did to me. Yun Chujio looked at the bruised and swollen face of Chu Feng and said guiltily, Senior Brother Chu, I'm sorry. I've implicated you. Chu Feng waved his hand and said, it's not your fault. The main thing is that your fiancé is too impolite. I see that he treats you coldly. He wouldn't hit you usually, right? If he really hit you, you can't have such a fiancé no matter how high your spiritual power is. As a man you have to take care of a girl. How can you be so rude? You see, I have always been obedient to the little moon. Chu Fang shivered as he spoke. Why did he suddenly feel a little cold? The little silver snake under the blanket was about to explode in anger. Good, very good. I will remember you. Yun Chujio found it funny in her heart. For the sake of Chu Fang's little life, she began to change the topic. Senior brother Chu, let's not talk about him for now. Are your injuries okay? Chu Fang said a little embarrassedly, I'm fine. I didn't react at that time either. Otherwise I wouldn't have fallen like this. Since you're alright, I'll go back first. Alright, I came to tell you that we'll set off tomorrow at midnight. Don't be late. Yun Chujio nodded and sent Chu Fang out. This guy closed the door and giggled when he remembered what Chu Fang had said earlier. The small silver snake under the blanket glared at her fiercely. He had already killed Chu Fang again and again in his heart. Chapter 4262 Yun Chujia's guest. The next morning, Yun Chujio got up on time and put the small silver snake into her sleeve. This way she could keep warm and avoid being taken advantage of by this pervert. After everyone got on the flying spirit tool, Yun Chujio felt that Zhuang Hong had been staring at her viciously. This guy sneered in his heart. If he didn't do anything evil, she would keep him for a few days. If he was looking for death, then she didn't mind giving him a ride. Thinking of Zhuang Hong, Yun Chujio thought of the middle-aged man from before. Then she was suddenly shocked and a bold guess surfaced in her mind. Could it be that the 9 pavilions were behind He Hongchuan, the old man with the triangular eyes, and the middle-aged man behind him at the sword technique conference? Although their words were directed at the 6 great sects, their main target was the nameless sword sect, which included the Flying Flower Island. Therefore, after learning about the Gigolo's news, they were able to gather a group of people so quickly. These people had other uses. However, their people had been dealt with by her one after another, so they changed their plans in an emergency. Then the question was, what was the purpose of the 9 pavilions doing this? Yun Chujio thought that what they did was nothing more than to defame the reputation of the nameless sword sect, causing its reputation to plummet, and then slowly erode it. Yun Chujio wanted to tell Master Ouyang about her guess, but she felt that the evidence was insufficient. Moreover, she couldn't mention what happened last night, so she decided to put it aside for now and wait for the right time to bring it up. However, along the way He Xingjiu often approached Master Ouyang. Her small mouth was so sweet that it was as if it was dipped in honey. Master Ouyang couldn't stop smiling. Master Ouyang now felt that it was not bad to take in such a disciple, but it was a pity that she was a female disciple. After some time, he would find a reason to take in a new disciple to train her. As for Yun Chujio, she could be his disciple, but she would definitely not be the successor of the sect master. If He Xingjiu knew what Master Ouyang was thinking, she would definitely sneer. How could she let others snatch what she liked? Dream on. After everyone returned to the nameless sword sect, He Xingjiu ran back to her courtyard. What He Xingjiu didn't notice was that a disciple from afar peeked at her. This unlucky person was the disciple who was knocked out by Di Baiming. Before Di Baiming left, he had threatened him. If he dared to leak his information, he would definitely kill him. Hence, this unlucky person didn't dare to tell anyone that Di Baiming had come. Now that he saw that Yun Chujio had returned safely, he heaved a sigh of relief in his heart. Yun Chujio returned to her own courtyard. After washing up, she released the drifters and the silly cuties as usual before she told Di Baiming her guess. It was inconvenient to talk on a flying spirit tool. Hence, these few days, other than stuffing some food into her sleeves, Yun Chujio basically did not communicate with a certain someone. Di Baiming felt that her guess was right. The 9 pavilions had been dormant for many years, and they had always been ambitious to rule the entire towering sky continent. The nameless sword sect and the other 5 sects were their stumbling blocks, so they must be plotting to get rid of them. I guess this is only the first step for them. There will be other actions in the future. You just need to remind Master Ouyang from the side, said Di Baiming. Yun Chujio nodded and said in puzzlement, let's not talk about the 9 pavilions first. I feel that the Divine Devil Hall is a little strange. Why has there been no movement? They have not been so quiet in other continents. Chapter 4263 won't scare you to death. When Di Baiming heard Yun Chujio's words, he said indifferently, on one hand, your attention was attracted by the 9 pavilions, so you didn't notice the actions of the Divine Devil Hall. On the other hand, they had failed in the previous continents. This time they naturally learned a lesson and did things more secretly. However, you don't have to worry too much. Sooner or later you will be exposed. Yun Chujio thought about the taste of Di Biming's words. Then she widened her eyes and said in disbelief, You don't mean that the 9 pavilions have a relationship with the Divine Devil Hall, right? Di Biming said non-committally, It's hard to say. I have only found some clues, so I can't make a conclusion yet. Yun Chujio still couldn't believe it. The people of the 9 pavilions have real spiritual power. It doesn't seem like they used medicine to increase their spiritual power. Also, I've never seen them use secret techniques. How could it be related to the Divine Devil Hall? It's possible that I guessed wrong. In any case, it's good that you know. Di Biming didn't say much. After all, he didn't have any concrete evidence. Yun Chujio's emotions were a little complicated. Although she did not like Lan Luochen, she still could not believe that he had actually joined the Divine Devil Hall. After a moment of silence, Yun Chujio suddenly remembered something. Puzzled, she asked, Didn't Wu Jia's head say that after you broke the seal, you became like an ice sculpture? I see that you still know how to shamelessly take advantage of me. You don't look like an ice sculpture but more like a pervert. The small silver snake closed its eyes and pretended to be dead, not making a sound. Yun Chujio pouted. TSK, it's not because you turned into a snake that you turned into a pervert, is it? No wonder you have 2 penises. Di Biming, which eye of yours saw that I have 2 whats? Nonsense. He had an ice spirit root. The stronger his spiritual power was, the colder his temperament was. After turning into a small silver snake, his spiritual power had weakened a lot, so his temperament had changed. However, he didn't want to tell Yun Chujio in case this little rascal became even more arrogant. Seeing that a certain one had been pretending to be dead, Yun Chujio smiled evilly and wanted to check the body of the small silver snake. The small silver snake was so scared that it directly crawled into the quilt. Hei Shinjio had a sinister smile on her face. Little rascal, I won't scare you to death. The next morning, after Hei Shinjio had breakfast, she jumped into the courtyard of Master Ouyang. Master, I've come to pay my respects to you. Master Ouyang nodded his head in gratification. It had to be said that ever since he had taken in this disciple, he felt that he had also become a few years younger. The master and disciple were chatting casually when Zhuanghong walked in. Zhuanghong saw that Yun Chujio wanted to strangle her to death, but he couldn't say anything because of Master Ouyang, so he could only pay his respects to Master Ouyang. Master Ouyang's attitude toward Zhuanghong was much colder than Yun Chujio's. He was very disappointed in Zhuanghong now, but because of the many years of master-disciple relationship, he didn't dissolve the master-disciple relationship. Master Ouyang's good mood was also gone. He waved his hand indicating that the 2 of them could leave. Zhuanghong and Yun Chujio walked out of Master Ouyang's courtyard one after the other. Zhuanghong said viciously, Yun Chujio, don't be complacent. A good-for-nothing like you will be expelled from Master Ouyang sooner or later. Also, don't forget that you and I are not the same batch of disciples. Although we are both successive disciples, you are a generation lower than me. Before Zhuanghong could say anything, Yun Chujio ran back to Master Ouyang's courtyard. Chapter 4264 Account Book. Zhuanghong was stunned. Then he remembered that Yun Chujio was full of bad ideas. He hesitated for a moment but still followed her. Before he got close to the living room, he heard Yun Chujio's loud voice. Master, Zhuanghong has to address you as your brother in the future. He said that you are the big brother and he is the little brother. Zhuanghong almost sat on the ground. This bitch was simply spouting nonsense. Master Ouyang's face darkened. What nonsense are you spouting? What a mess. Zhuanghong also barged in at this time and said angrily, Yun Chujio, you're spouting nonsense. When have I ever said that? Yun Chujio blinked her eyes. Master, Zhuanghong told me that he and I are not in the same batch of disciples, so we have to address him as martial uncle. Then the problem comes. You are my master and he is my martial uncle. Then aren't you in the same generation as him? Master Ouyang was stunned. He didn't pay attention to these forms of address in the past, but now it seemed that it was a little inappropriate. However, how should he address her? Master, how about this? In any case, in the sect, only the elders and the successive disciples have a true master-disciple relationship. Then, it doesn't matter how many generations the successive disciples are, they can all address each other as the same generation. Yun Chujio suggested. Master Ouyang felt that it made sense. Although it was a little rough, at least it wouldn't be messy. Zhuang Hong wanted to object, but he knew that he would be rebuked by Yun Chujio if he said it out loud. Therefore he didn't say anything, but he had some plans in his mind. After Zhuang Hong left, He Xinjiu said with a smile, "Master, don't you think him quite smart? If you have anything that takes time and effort, you can teach me to do it. I guarantee that I will help you complete it beautifully." Master Ouyang glanced at Yun Chujio and pondered for a moment. He said, "It just so happens that the account of the Spirit Stone mine has been handed over in the next few days. If you have time, help Master check it and see if they have tampered with it." Hearing that, Yun Chujio curled her lips slightly. This was simply a trivial matter, so she said, "No problem. Master, where is the account book? I promise to find out all the tricks in it." Master Ouyang looked at her with a complicated expression, and then, a pile of account books appeared on the ground. Yun Chujio looked at the small mountain of account books, and her heart was like a dog that was complaining. Old man Ouyang was just messing with her, right? Master Ouyang coughed a few times. "The affairs in the sect are complicated, so the account books have been piling up in my place, and I have never had time to check them. Since you are so smart, take them back and check them slowly." He Xinjiu had already bragged, but she could not slap herself in the face. She had no choice but to put the accounts into her storage ring and return to her own yard. Looking at the mountains of accounts in the yard, she felt that her head was about to explode. As expected, the older the ginger, the spicier it was. Old man Ouyang had seen through her thoughts, so he had made such a move to show her off. She had a photographic memory and she was extremely smart. However, with so many accounts, how long would it take to review them? Just as she was worrying, the drifters thought that these account books were new toys that Yun Chujio had gotten for them. They crowded around and threw the account books around, enjoying themselves. Yun Chujio's head was buzzing. She stomped her feet and shouted, "Put them down. These are not toys for you." The more He Xinjiu shouted, the more excited the drifters became. They thought it was too fucking fun. Chapter 4265. Troublemaking drifters. He Xinjiu was so angry that she almost died. However, the drifters were not afraid of her at all. The ledgers were thrown all over the yard. Fortunately, the ledgers were much stronger than the ones in the secular world, otherwise they would definitely fall apart if they were thrown around by the drifters. He Xinjiu roared in anger, "If you dare to be evil again, I won't bring you out in the future. You can put mushrooms in this yard." Hearing He Xinjiu's words, the drifters threw the books on the ground and went to play on the slide and swing. In fact, these drifters felt that they had played enough. Otherwise, Yun Chujio's threat would not have worked. He Xinjiu looked at the books on the ground and felt like crying. She did not need to cultivate after reading so many books. However, if she did not do it, old man Ouyang would have even more excuses not to give her power in the future. She was really in a dilemma. It was not that He Xinjiu had not thought of hiring people to help her with the accounting, but these accounts were confidential and it was not convenient for others to handle them. Just as He Xinjiu was feeling bitter, the little silver snake said, "This venerable self will audit with you. 2 people are faster than 1 person." Yun Chujio's eyes lit up. That's right, she still had a freeloader to feed. There was no need to use it. Therefore, He Xinjiu got Meng Yanshou and the rest to pick up the accounts books and arrange them neatly. She and Di Biming started to audit the accounts. However, just as they started to audit the accounts, the drifters came to cause trouble. They threw the neatly arranged accounts books into the yard again. He Xinjiu was completely enraged this time. This fellow carried a large kitchen knife and chased after the drifters all over the yard. However, the drifters were not afraid of being hacked at all. They even rushed over to let her hack at them, almost causing this fellow to vomit blood in anger. A certain someone looked at He Xinjiu, who was jumping all over the yard with doting eyes. He felt that such a lively little scoundrel was simply too cute. If He Xinjiu knew what this person was thinking, she would definitely roast him into a dried snake. Lively my ass. She was about to die from anger. Yun Chujio chased after him for a long time and was panting tiredly. She sat on the chair and panted as she scolded, "A bunch of white-eyed fools. I will tear down the swing and the slide in a while. Let's see if they are still showing off." When those fools heard that Yun Chujio was going to tear down the swing and the slide, they immediately stopped and sneakily returned the account books to the stone table. Yun Chujio narrowed her eyes. So these white-eyed drifters were afraid of this. However, the most important thing now was to review these account books first. When there was time, she would deal with these white-eyed drifters. When Yun Chujio thought of this, she picked up her account book and began to read it. She did not need to use any abacus. After scanning it with her eyes, the basic results were out. She stole a glance at the small silver snake and realized that he was also flipping the pages very quickly. Clearly, the speed of a certain person's mental calculation was not slower than hers. The corners of the guy's mouth curled. He became competitive and sped up. However, even though the speed of mental calculation was very fast, there were too many books. It would take them at least 7 or 8 days if they didn't eat or drink. Hei Xingjiu was a little impatient. She threw the books on the stone table and looked at her group of silly cuties. Then she said, "What's the use of raising you? If you can audit the books, can I go and cultivate?" Buttface, who was running crazily in the yard, said eagerly, "Little fairy, if you don't mind that I'm stupid, I can help you do it. However, I only know how to add and subtract within 10. If you include my toes, I can barely do anything below 20. I won't count any more." Yun Chujio said, "Get lost." Chapter 4266 was finally completed. Buttface was not angry even though he was scolded. He said slyly, "Little fairy, although I don't know how to calculate, Curly Hair knows it and so does that kitten. They are all scheming people. How can they not know how to calculate?" Yun Chujia's eyes immediately lit up. She looked at Meng Yanshou and the kitten and asked, "You guys know how to read accounts?" Meng Yanshou and the cat cub hated Buttface, who was a snitch. However, they did not dare to lie. Meng Yanshou said dryly, "Just a little." The cat cub also said weakly, "I only know a little." Yun Chujio narrowed her eyes and did not say anything. She just threw a pile of books to the two. The two of them couldn't begin to look at the books bitterly. It would be great if they could play by the side. Who would be willing to look at this stupid thing? Yun Chujio looked at them coldly. Although the nightmare beast and the kitten were slightly slower than her and beiming, they were still much faster than the average person. As expected, they knew how to count. Buttface saw Yun Chujio's cold gaze and was gloating in his heart. The kitten and Curly Hair had always wanted to compete for the pet. They wouldn't be able to trick the two of them to death. With the help of Meng Yanshou and Cat Cub, the speed was much faster. After 3 days they had finally finished reviewing the pile of ledgers. Yun Chujio carefully looked at some of the connections in the ledgers. In the end, she wrote a summary of the results and eagerly went to see Master Ouyang. Master Ouyang had thrown a pile of ledgers to Yun Chujio in order to make her quit. Not to mention the position of sect master, he did not even want her to do the daily affairs. It was impossible for a female disciple to do these things. Therefore, when Master Ouyang heard that Yun Chujio had finished reviewing the books, he was shocked. Then he said with a straight face, "Little Jio, this is not a joke. If you dare to deceive me, humph." Hearing that, Yun Chujio smiled and handed a few pages to Master Ouyang. "Master, please have a look." Master Ouyang's mouth twitched when he saw the dog-like handwriting on the pages. However, when he saw the contents, his face was full of shock. He followed the words written on the pages and randomly checked a few ledgers. He found that the flaws he pointed out were not wrong at all. Did she really finish reading all those ledgers in 3 days? Was she still human? After a long time, Master Ouyang finally came back to his senses. He said to the calm and composed Hei Xingjiu, "You should go back first. I will look for you if I have any questions." How could Hei Xingjiu leave just like that? What a joke. She had worked so hard for 3 days and was sent away just like that? In your dreams. "Master, I am your last disciple after all, and I can write and calculate. You should at least arrange some errands for me, right? I think it's good enough to inspect the upper, middle, and lower court's big kitchens when I have nothing to do. What do you think?" Master Ouyang was so angry that he laughed. He had seen thick-skinned people before, but this was the first time he had seen such thick-skinned people. However, he thought that this little girl was a scoundrel. If she did not agree, she might not cause any trouble. After all, the big kitchen was not involved in anything, it was not a big deal to let her interfere. Therefore he nodded. "All right, then I will hand over the 3 courts big kitchen to you to manage. If anything goes wrong, I will hold you responsible." Yun Chujio immediately thanked her with a smile and left with the sect leader's decree. When this fellow left Master Ouyang's courtyard, the corners of her mouth curled up. "There's no rush. Simmer it slowly. Let's take it slow. Sooner or later she will make old man Ouyang cry and beg her to be the successor of the sect leader." Chapter 4267, The Ghost Realm. Hei Xingjiu went to the 3rd courtyard's kitchen and pretended to guide them for an inspection. Then, she shamelessly packed a pile of delicious food and strolled back to the courtyard. The people in the 3rd courtyard's big kitchen dared not to be angry, but they did not dare to say anything. After all, this little girl was now the last disciple of the sect master. One person achieved enlightenment, and the chickens and dogs ascended to heaven. The silly cuties also followed suit, hugging the meat bones and munching happily. When Dog 2 saw the cat cub's lack of interest, it had a thought. This cat cub was the most narrow-minded. Usually it was very protective of its food, but today it was acting so strangely. There must be something wrong. It eagerly went to Yun Chujia's side and said, "Little fairy, I report. The cat cub is up to no good. If it didn't have something on its mind, why would it be so quiet?" The kitten almost fell to the ground. It hurriedly said, "Little fairy, don't listen to its nonsense. I'm just too tired from reading the books a few days ago." Yun Chujio narrowed her eyes. Among all these silly cuties, the one she was most worried about was this fake kitten. Although it placed its hopes on the soul transformation technique, it was hard to guarantee that it would play some tricks. When the cat cub saw Yun Chujia's cold gaze, it could not help but tremble. It stammered, I did hide something, but it's useless to say it out loud." Before Yun Chujio could say anything, Dog 2 glared at it and said, "Whether it's useful or not, that's up to the little fairy. What's the use of saying that? Quickly tell me the truth or I'll kill you." The kitten hated Buttface to death. However, Yun Chujio was protecting it, and although it was useless now, it was still an ancient fierce beast. It didn't have absolute confidence in killing it, so even if it hated it to the bone, it couldn't do anything. It could only say with an embarrassed expression, "Since the little fairy wants to know, I'll just say it. I know where the blazing red glass is." "What?" Yun Chujio suddenly stood up and held the kitten's ear and asked, "Do you know where the blazing red glaze tile is? Where is it?" The little silver snake, who had been resting with its eyes closed, opened its eyes and stared at the kitten with a burning gaze. The kitten was so frightened that it trembled and said, "I've also heard about it, so I don't know if it's true or not. It's rumored that the royal family of the Ghost Clan has the blazing red glaze tile. But the Ghost Clan is very fierce and their cultivation methods are different from ours. So, it's useless even if I tell them or not." When Buttface heard about the Ghost Clan, he immediately regretted that he had said too much. He did not want to go to that kind of place again. He had scared his baby to death. Yun Chujio was at a loss. Ghost Clan? What's a Ghost Clan? Don't people have to enter reincarnation to become ghosts? Why is there a Ghost Clan? D. Biming explained, "The Ghost Clan is just a title, not a real Ghost Clan. The place where they live is called the Ghost Territory. After the Ghost Clan left the Ghost Territory, they entered the immortal soul state. The people in the world mistook them for ghosts, so they gave them the name of the Ghost Clan. Correspondingly, other races could only enter the Ghost Territory in the immortal soul state, and the immortal soul of humans was the most fragile. Therefore, the Ghost Territory was never worried about being invaded by other races. Most importantly, the entrance to the Ghost Domain has always been hidden. Almost no one knows where it is, so the Ghost race rarely interacts with other races." Although Yun Chujio still had a lot of doubts, she finally knew most of it. She looked at Kitten and asked, "Do you know the entrance to the Ghost Domain?" A hint of schadenfreude flashed in Kitten's eyes. "I don't know, but Buttface knows that it disappeared for a few years. It is said that it was trapped in the Ghost Domain." Chapter 4268. "You are the only woman that I have my eyes on," Buttface shouted in exasperation. "Nonsense. I'm not trapped there, I'm just loitering. I'm an ancient beast, how can a mere Ghost Clan trap me?" The cat cub curled his lips in disdain and did not say a word. "Little fellow, are you trying to trick me? If I can't get better, don't even think about it. We are all in the same boat." Yun Chujio looked at Dog 2's fierce appearance and curled the corners of her mouth. No wonder Dog 2 was afraid of ghosts. It was not the ghosts but the Ghost Clan that it was afraid of. However, looking at how afraid it was likely that the memories of the Ghost Realm were not very good. "Dog 2, do you know the entrance to the Ghost Realm?" Yun Chujio asked faintly. Buttface shook his head like a rattledrum. I don't know. I was muddle-headed back then and accidentally stumbled into the Ghost Domain. I didn't know where the entrance was. Besides, little fairy, the Ghost Domain isn't a place for humans to go. Spiritual energy will be suppressed there, and it's still in the primordial spirit state. In addition, those ghosts are all very cruel and abnormal. Don't be stupid." Yun Chujio knew that Buttface must know the entrance to the Ghost Realm when she saw the guilty look on his face. However, should she make such a trip? D. Biming said in a deep voice, "Little Gio, I'll make a trip to the ghost realm after my body recovers. You don't have to get involved in this matter anymore. You just need to cultivate well in the Nameless Sword sect. Before Yun Chujio could say anything, Buttface shouted, "No, Your Excellency, you can't go." This time both Di Biming and Yun Chujio were stunned. They knew something from Buttface's words. Yun Chujio said coldly, "Buttface, it seems that you are hiding a lot of things from me. Tell me what is going on." Buttface wanted to slap himself twice. He blinked his eyes and said, "I don't know the specifics. I only know a little. If I'm wrong, you can't blame me." Yun Chujio snorted coldly. This Buttface was becoming more and more calculative. His words were becoming more and more watertight. Seeing that Yun Chujio ignored him, Buttface could only continue. The Ghost Clan and the Yen Clan had a good relationship for a period of time. Wasn't Your Excellency the lord of the Yen Clan in the past? That's why they had an acquaintance. It was said that Princess Meiyen of the Ghost Clan admired the lord very much. She once said that she wouldn't marry anyone other than the lord. However, after the lord disappeared mysteriously, she didn't know whether Princess Meiyen had married or not. Little fairy, think about it. If this lord goes to the ghost realm, wouldn't he be like a meat bun hitting a dog and never coming back? Di Biming heard Buttface's metaphor and glared at him. However, this glance had a different meaning in Yun Chujio's eyes. She sneered and said, "What? Are you afraid that I will know that you have an old lover?" Di Biming rebuked coldly, "What nonsense are you talking about? Although I have lost a lot of my memories, I can swear to the heavens that from the beginning to the end, you are the only woman that I have taken a fancy to. Other women are no different from cats and dogs in my eyes." When Hei Shinjio heard Di Biming's words, she felt a little better. However, when she thought about it, this pretty boy had too many secrets. There might be a few coquettish bitches jumping out one day. She had to be on high alert. In case the wife slave that she had painstakingly groomed was taken advantage of by others. Then the question was, should she go to the ghost realm? Chapter 4269 Scheming Dog. While Yun Chujio was pondering, Di Biming said coldly, "Little Jio, you should get rid of this idea as soon as possible. I will go there myself after I recover." Yun Chujio pouted and said, "What if you are set up by that whatever succubus? You are so stupid. I'm afraid that you will fall for it." Di Biming, Buttface couldn't wait for Yun Chujio not to go to the ghost realm, so he said, "Little fairy, how can you not trust Your Excellency? Your Excellency loves you more than gold. How can you like that succubus? Although that succubus is the #1 beauty of the Ghost Clan, in my opinion she can't even compare to a strand of your hair. Your Excellency will never like her." Yun Chujio's sense of danger grew stronger when she heard that succubus was the #1 beauty of the Ghost Clan. That old woman had lived for tens of thousands of years. She might have many tricks up her sleeves. No matter what, she had to go with her. Otherwise, what would happen if the pretty boy's virginity was taken away? Di Biming knew what Yun Chujio was thinking when he saw her expression. He glared at Buttface, who was not helping. He knew that Yun Chujio was fearless. No matter what, he had to calm her down first. Hence he said, "How about this? After I recover we will go together." Yun Chujio felt that this was a good idea, so she nodded and agreed. Buttface immediately drooped his head. He did not want to return to that nightmare-like place. However, he was now the little fairy's beast. If the little fairy wanted to go, he could only follow her. The baby really wanted to cry. Just as Buttface was feeling miserable, Yun Chujio asked, "Right, Buttface, where is the entrance to the ghost realm?" Buttface blinked his dog eyes. Although he did not want to say it, he still said, "It's far away and right in front of us. It's under the sword pool. Otherwise, where do you think these drifters came from?" The Eye of Sword Intent was also the entrance, but it was probably destroyed by those drifters. This time not only Yun Chujio but even Di Biming was surprised. Could these drifters have something to do with the Ghost Clan? Didn't they say that these were the killing aura? No wonder they could only stay in the puppet disc once they left the Eye of Sword Intent or the Nameless Sword sect. So this was the reason. Then they are the Ghost Clan? Yun Chujio asked in disbelief. Buttface shook his head. They shouldn't be the Ghost Clan. Who knows what the hell they are? They look quite similar to the killing aura. The drifters heard their conversation and immediately fluttered around, not knowing why they were so smug. Yun Chujio looked deeply at Buttface. She had thought that he was a good-for-nothing, but it turned out that he was a scheming dog who was loyal to the outside but a traitor. There must be a lot of things that he was hiding from her. When Buttface saw Yun Chujio looking at him with an unfriendly gaze, he immediately shivered. "Little fairy, it's not that I didn't want to report it. It's just that the ghost domain is too dangerous. I'm doing this for your own good." If Yun Chujio believed him, there would be a ghost. However, she could also see that this scheming dog was full of schemes. It was useless to force it. She could only take her time to deal with it. However, the entrance was much easier in the sword pool. This way, she was not afraid that D. Biming would leave her alone. That night, everything was quiet. Yun Chujio and D. Biming also entered their dreams. Because there was a murderous aura guarding the courtyard, Yun Chujio did not release stupid Meng to watch the night. The murderous aura sneaked into the bedroom. The silver snake opened its vertical pupils. However, it quickly felt dizzy and did not know anything. Chapter 4270. Heading to the ghost region, a dark light flashed past the black bead in Yun Chujio's dantian, but it disappeared in an instant and did not make any movements. Guai Chao and the Great Void Mirror seemed to have noticed the unusual movements, but the two of them did not make any movements either. The murderous aura wrapped around Yun Chujio and the small silver snake and soon disappeared from the bedroom. Their movements were mysterious, and they skillfully avoided the patrolling disciples and headed towards the sword pool. Soon they arrived at the sword pool. What was surprising was that with their wrapping, the sword lights could not hurt Yun Chujio and the small silver snake at all. Soon they disappeared into the sword pool. Hei Xinjiu was teasing a certain lord in her dream when she suddenly had a very strange feeling. It was as if her entire person was in an ethereal state. She opened her eyes in a quiver. However, she realized that she was in a red mist. To be exact, she was surrounded by a group of drifters. What was going on? She subconsciously looked for the small silver snake. She was shocked when she saw a phantom floating beside her. She muttered to herself with a dumbfounded expression, "Am I still in a dream? Otherwise, how did this pervert become like this?" A certain being, "Little Jiu, our primordial spirits have already left our bodies. We are both in the primordial spirit state now." D. Biming's tone carried a hint of helplessness. He woke up earlier than Yun Chujio, but he could only watch as these drifters carried him forward. However, he saw that the place where their bodies were located seemed to be a secret room, and there were even some drifters surrounding it. It should be very safe. Yun Chujio was a little confused. What did they mean by Yuan Shen leaving the body? Why did Yuan Shen leave the body when he was sleeping? This fellow looked at his hand and realized that it was indeed a purple phantom. Just as she was confused, Buttface's fawning voice came from behind. "Little fairy, I told you that these drifters are a little strange. They are indeed very strange. They actually led us into the passage leading to the ghost realm in a daze." Buttface? Yun Chujio turned around and saw an earthy yellow phantom shaking its head and wagging its tail to flatter her. Yun Chujio frowned. "I remember that I didn't let you out at night. How did you follow me?" Buttface had a sullen look on his face. He didn't want to follow her either. It would be much better if he could eat and drink in the spirit beast pouch. However, these damn drifters somehow managed to get his primordial spirit out of the spirit beast pouch and even brought it along with them. After hearing what Buttface had told her, Yun Chujio pondered for a moment. It seemed that these drifters were selective. Otherwise, they would have brought the rest of the dumb cuties along and not just Buttface. Now was not the time to fight with these drifters. Since they had already gone to the ghost realm, she would go there and take a look. She wanted to see what the old witch who coveted her man looked like. After thinking it through, this fellow also had the mood to relax. He smiled and said to the little silver snake, "Prince Charming, you still don't know, right? I learned a little trick in the underground of the ghost city. I'll perform it for you to relieve your boredom." A certain someone was completely speechless. What kind of time was this? He actually still had the mood to play a little trick. His heart was really big. Yun Chujio did not care about a certain someone's reaction. She removed her arms and legs. Under a certain someone's horrified gaze, she transformed into countless purple light spots and then transformed into a certain someone's appearance. Chapter 4271. Turned into a human again? A certain someone looked at Hei Xinjiu who was showing off, and the shock in his heart could not be described with words. A human's primordial spirit was extremely fragile. If it turned into a light spot like the little rascal just now, would it mean that her soul and spirit were destroyed? Not only was she fine, but she could even transform back into any form? How was this possible? Yun Chujio saw the small silver snake's dumbfounded expression and felt that she was awesome. Those shameless drifters began to show off as well. Yun Chujio secretly gritted her teeth. What did her ability have to do with them? They actually followed her and showed off as well. How shameless. Yun Chujio had enough of the small silver snake's shock and blinked her eyes. Although there shouldn't be any enemies in the ghost realm, her physique was really terrible. For safety reasons, it was better to change into another appearance. Thus, this fellow transformed into an ordinary-looking young girl. However, the edges of the phantom were different from the silver of the little silver snake and the earthen yellow of Buttface. Instead, it was purple. Beiming knew her intentions and agreed with her. Everything in the ghost realm was unknown. It was always right to be careful. After drifting for almost a day, a dazzling light spot finally appeared in front of them. Yun Chujio knew that they were about to reach the exit. This guy was afraid that the silver snake and Buttface would get separated from him, so he wrapped the silver snake around his arm and held Buttface in his arms. Fortunately, they were both in the primordial spirit state, so there was no difference in their actions. When Dog 2 saw the silver snake's cold gaze, it shivered. It knew that the jealous god was angry that the little fairy was hugging it. However, even if it had to risk offending a certain god, it had to hold on to the little fairy tightly and not let go. The ghost domain was such a terrifying place. If it did not follow the little fairy, it would be very miserable. Finally, the drifters brought 3 of them to the exit, and a blinding light was emitted. When Yun Chujio regained her sight, she realized that she had become a human again. She pinched herself and grimaced in pain. Had she really become a human? Then she looked at the clothes on her body. It was completely the same clothes that she had transformed into previously. It was simply too magical. Then she looked at the little silver snake and Buttface on the ground beside her. They were almost exactly the same as before. However, the figures of the drifters had disappeared. Could it be that they did not follow them out? At this moment, Buttface said eagerly, "Little fairy, do you find it very strange? This is easy to understand. The members of the ghost clan turned into ghosts when they came to our side, so we turned into humans when we came to their side." Although Buttface said it in a roundabout way, Yun Chujio also understood what he meant. It was nothing more than talking about the ghost realm, where the primordial spirit turned into a corporeal body. Due to a certain god's memory loss, he also felt that this experience was very fresh. However, he was not as obvious as Yun Chujio. Because she no longer had a storage ring on her body, Yun Chujio could not see her own appearance now. She asked, "Prince Charming, do I look like my original appearance after I'm easily transformed?" Beiming said, "It's your transformed appearance. But why is there a red mole between your brows?" Yun Chujio could not see it without a mirror. She said casually, "I guess I didn't notice it when I transformed. I'll see if I can transform into something else." Yun Chujio tried the previous method. Her body actually turned into purple smoke and then transformed into Shui Wuji's appearance. However, there was still a red mole between her eyebrows that was as red as blood. Chapter 4272. Dog 2's elemental energy level. Yun Chujio once again reverted to her original appearance and frowned. She had a guess. Could this damnable red dot be those drifters? When these damnable drifters were in the Nameless Sword sect, they always wanted to make her frown. Now she finally got what she wanted. However, now was not the time to bicker with them. The important matter was still more important. Yun Chujio tried to use her spiritual power and found that her spiritual power had been suppressed to the 8th level of the spirit enhancement realm. She was so angry that she almost vomited blood. Spirit enhancement? How far away was this level? Wasn't it so weak that she could not even summon Dehua? She tried to summon Dehua. Not to mention Dehua, she could not even summon a small purple needle. This guy felt a little uncertain. He could not use the big kitchen knife, Dehua and those stupid cuties. His spiritual power had been suppressed to the level of the spirit enhancement realm, and he had 2 free food beside him. His future was bleak. A certain god did not know that he had been treated as free food by Hei Shinjio. He looked a little annoyed and tried to summon an ice dragon. Soon, an ice dragon appeared in front of the 2 of them. Hei Shinjio saw the ice dragon and widened her eyes. She asked, "Prince Charming, what level is your spiritual power suppressed to?" "I'm only at the 8th level of the spirit enhancement level now. The ghost realm is indeed very strong in suppressing spiritual power. But fortunately, at least I can still release the ice dragon. It's just that using it once will consume a lot of spiritual power," Beiming said in a deep voice. Yun Chujio was so angry that she was speechless. This was a blatant discrimination. Why could a gigolo be able to use a spiritual beast when they were both at the 8th level of the spirit enhancement realm? Why couldn't she? Alright, it seemed that when they were in the Qingsheng continent, the gigolo's spiritual power was also suppressed. But he could also use a spiritual beast. It was really fucking unfair. This guy pouted and ignored beaming. Instead, he carefully observed the surrounding environment. She had roughly scanned the area before and realized that this was a wilderness. It did not look any different from the towering sky continent. It was just that it was remote and desolate. Buttface, do you know where this is? Buttface narrowed his dog eyes and said, the ghost domain has many such wilderness, so I can't tell where this is. However, the yuan qi here is very thin. It's most likely the base domain. Dog 2 saw that Yun Chujio and the small silver snake were somewhat confused. It explained, the ghost race cultivates not spirit energy but yuan qi. Yuan qi is extremely important to them, so they divided the ghost domain into 3 regions: base domain, flat domain, and imperial domain. The base domain mainly lives in the commoners, while the flat domain lives in the commoners and a portion of the commoners who are servants. The imperial domain is the aristocratic families and the imperial family. Yun Chujio asked curiously, it's easy to understand the aristocratic families and the imperial family. What's the difference between commoners and commoners? And according to what classification? Dog 2 looked at Yun Chujio sympathetically. According to the classification of elemental energy, little fairy, you don't have a single trace of elemental energy at the moment, so you are definitely a lowly commoner. If you want to get close to the imperial family and obtain the blazing red glaze tile, the most important thing is to increase your elemental energy. Otherwise, not to mention going to the imperial region, even surviving is a problem. Yun Chujio glanced at it. From what I hear, you have elemental energy? Dog 2 immediately said smugly, no matter what, I was once trapped in this ghost domain. Yes, I roamed around for hundreds of years. In the end, I didn't even put the royal family in my eyes, let alone the commoners. It's just that my soul has only recovered a little, so, speak human language. So there's not much elemental energy left. Cough cough. It's only at the level of a rank 3 origin beast, which is equivalent to the 3rd level of the ghost clan, Buttface said guiltily. Chapter 4273. Go for hunting. Although Yun Chujio did not know the level of elemental energy, seeing the guilty look on Dog 2's face, she knew that it was most likely the lowest level of elemental energy. After asking, it was indeed the lowest level of elemental energy. Yun Chujio asked Dog 2 about the cultivation method of elemental energy. Little fairy, you are a human and I am a beast. This cultivation method is different. If you want to learn how to cultivate elemental energy, you can only buy some cultivation books or find someone to teach you. However, it is very difficult to get started. I reckon that you and your majesty will need a long time to catch up to me. Seeing that a certain lord in Hei Xinjiu did not have elemental energy at the moment and that he was the most powerful, Dog 2 could not help but feel a little smug. Yun Chujio frowned. Whether it was buying books or finding someone to teach, the most important thing was to have money first. No matter what currency was here, she did not have a single cent. Her gaze landed on Dog 2. Dog 2, when we reach the town, I will sell you for some money. After that, you can think of a way to run back. Buttface, you'll lose your baby if you act like this. Of course, Yun Chujio was trying to scare Buttface so that he wouldn't think that she had elemental energy and act all smug. A certain deity naturally knew what Yun Chujio was thinking and said cooperatively, this idea is not bad. Although it doesn't have much use, it's not a bad idea to let people buy it to eat meat. Buttface was so scared that he was about to cry. His ears and tail immediately drooped as he said with a sobbing tone, Little fairy, I was wrong. I shouldn't be so smug. I'll definitely tuck my tail between my legs and become a dog again in the future. Yun Chujio curled her lips. It's fine if you don't sell it. Think of a way to earn money. If you can't think of one, I'll have to sell you. Buttface thought bitterly for a while, then he said, I remember that there's a type of sword-toothed gopher in this wilderness. It's only a rank 1 origin beast, which is equivalent to the 1st layer of the ghost clan. Although it's not very valuable, it can be exchanged for some money. Why don't we capture some and sell them for money? Yun Chujio had no other choice but to bitterly follow Buttface and start catching gopher. Buttface found a palm-sized hole with familiarity and said to Yun Chujio, Little fairy, you stay here. I'll go to another hole and release my elemental energy. It will run out from this hole. You just need to catch it. After seeing Yun Chujio nod, Buttface ran to a hole in the distance and began to release his elemental energy into the hole. He also used his claws to dig a hole. After the sword-toothed gopher was frightened, it panicked and wanted to escape from the other hole. However, it was caught by Yunchujio. The sword-toothed gopher was in a hurry to escape. Its sharp long teeth bit towards Yunchujio's finger. Yunchujio hurriedly raised her spirit energy shield. The spirit energy barrier was torn into pieces by the scimitar-toothed hamster's sharp teeth. Fortunately, at this time, Buttface jumped over and bit the scimitar-toothed hamster's throat. The scimitar-toothed hamster's neck tilted and it died. Yunchujio frowned. It seemed that the first level of the original level was higher than the 8th level of the spirit enhancement. Her and the pretty boy's spirit energy was not enough. Moreover, they did not dare to use their spirit energy in front of outsiders. Therefore, the most important thing was to quickly cultivate their elemental energy. Following that, Yunchujio and Buttface worked together to catch more than a dozen saber-toothed gophers. When they felt that it was about time, they identified the direction and walked towards the edge of the wilderness. Yunchujio said with a faint smile, "Buttface, I see that you have a lot of mouse-catching skills. You caught quite a lot of these things before, right?" Chapter 4274. The dog gets the mouse. Buttface stammered and didn't say anything. When he thought of the miserable days when he got the mouse, he felt that this was the biggest dark history in his life. Back then he accidentally bumped into the ghost realm, and his spiritual power was suppressed. In order to not starve to death, he could only use these sword-toothed gophers to satisfy his hunger. If it weren't for his strong body as a fierce beast, he would have died in this ghost realm long ago. Yunchujio saw that dog too was drooping its head, so she did not continue to tease it. Instead, she said slyly to a certain venerable, "Prince Charming, do you have any thoughts about revisiting this old place? Soon you will see Princess Meiyan. Are you excited?" This venerable one does not remember anything, so it is not a revisiting of the old place. You don't have to test this venerable one anymore. This venerable one's taste is not that bad. Any Tom, Dick, or Harry can be compared to this venerable one, the venerable one said coldly. When Yunchujio saw that a certain venerable one had even come out with a venerable one, she knew that he was angry. She hurriedly said, all right, I won't mention it. I care about you, right? If you were snatched away by someone, my heart would be broken into 108 pieces." Hearing Yunchujio's words, the certain venerable one was clearly very pleased. He felt that the entire snake was very comfortable. Buttface secretly curled his lips. It was really mushy. Moreover, what he thought was simple. He did not have any essence energy at the moment. How could he still dream of entering the Imperial region? Wishful thinking. Of course, this fellow only dared to think about it in his heart, but he did not dare to say it out loud. Perhaps it was because the resources in the wilderness were too scarce. Yunchujio did not encounter any other essence beasts as she walked all the way to the edge of the wilderness. All she could see was a bumpy dirt road. Both sides were filled with rubble and sand, making it very desolate. "Little fairy, it seems like my judgment is correct. This is indeed the scum domain," Dog 2 said as it looked at the situation on both sides of the dirt road. "It's good that it's the scum domain. After all, I don't have any origin energy now. If I were to go to the other 2 domains, I'm afraid I won't be able to save my life," Yunchujio said indifferently. Dog 2 curled its lips. "Little fairy, you just happen to be wrong." At the very least, the Ping domain and the Imperial domain still had law enforcement teams in order. However, there were no laws and restrictions in the scum domain. They adhered to the principle of the strong preying on the weak. It was very normal to rob and kill people on the streets. Therefore you should seek your own fortune. Yunchujio frowned. She was currently as weak as a piece of trash. If she really encountered a villain, forget about protecting the pretty boy and dog too, she might not even be able to protect herself. However, if she did not enter the town and had no way to cultivate elemental energy, she would really be in a dilemma. Buttface saw Yunchujio's worry and said, "Little fairy, the elemental energy of the commoners in the towns near the wilderness is usually very low, only around the 3rd level of the Yuanchu realm. With me protecting you, you don't have to be afraid. Little Gio, if they are only at the 3rd level of the Yuanchu realm, I can release the ice dragon at the critical moment to let us escape. It shouldn't be a problem for you to be careful." Even though Buttface and D. Biming said so, Yunchujio still felt that it wasn't very safe. She blinked her eyes and transformed into a burly man. Then she said in a muffled voice, "It should be better this way. Let's go." When Buttface saw the red mole between the burly man's eyebrows, he couldn't help but stagger. Wasn't this scene too sour and refreshing? Yun Chujio also slowly recalled the red mole between her eyebrows. She simply smeared some saber-toothed rat blood on her forehead, so that others would think that it was accidentally stained with blood. Chapter 4275, Man-Town Buttface reminded, Little Fairy, men and women's elemental energy auras are different. If the other party's elemental energy level is 5 levels higher than yours, they will be able to tell your actual gender. So, it's fine here. If we go somewhere else, it's better for you to pretend to be a woman. Yun Chujio was stunned. There was such a saying? What if I turn into a stone? What if I turn into grass? Buttface's face was stiff. I've never heard of such a situation. I guess no one would believe that a person can turn into a stone or grass. Yun Chujio's eyes immediately lit up. If she really encountered danger, she could completely transform into a tree or grass. She could definitely escape this disaster. The most urgent matter at hand was to buy the spirit beast pouch used by the Ghost Clan. This way, when she was escaping for her life, she could keep Buttface. As for the pretty boy, he was small anyway, so she could just randomly stuff him anywhere. After thinking up to this point, Yun Chujio's mood became a little better. She hummed a little tune as she led Buttface forward. After walking for some distance, they sparsely met a few people. Although those people were puzzled that Yun Chujio did not have any origin energy undulations on her body, seeing her valiant figure and bringing along a third-level origin beast, no one dared to go up and provoke her, so they were fine. Yun Chujio saw that those people's bodies were filled with a bloody and brutal aura, and she was even more convinced of Buttface's words. These lowlifes probably really did not have any rules to speak of, completely relying on their fierce fighting. After walking for half a day, she saw a town in the distance. There were 2 crooked words written on it, Man-Town. However, rather than calling it a town, it was more appropriate to call it a village. It was really too small and too dilapidated. Even so, there were still 2 men with grass roots holding knives guarding the entrance. When they saw people with low elemental energy, they would blackmail them. If they couldn't hand over the things, they would be beaten up. Yun Chujio frowned and gave off a brutal and fierce aura as she swaggered towards the entrance. The 2 men exchanged a glance and wanted to go forward to stop her. However, they were frightened by Yun Chujio's aura. When they saw Dog 2's fierce little eyes, they did not dare to go forward. Yun Chujio walked in front of the 2 men and stopped. The 2 men jumped in fright. They thought that Yun Chujio was looking for trouble and immediately became vigilant. They did not expect Yun Chujio to only stop for a moment before continuing to walk forward. The 2 of them only heaved a sigh of relief when they saw Yun Chujio walk a distance away. They said, that person's aura was really frightening, but there seemed to be no elemental energy undulations on his body. What's going on? I heard that if the elemental energy is too much higher than ours, we won't be able to see the other party's cultivation level. I reckon that person's elemental energy is much higher than ours. Didn't you see that the origin beast beside him is already at the 3rd level of the origin core realm? So that's how it is. Fortunately, we didn't offend him. When Yun Chujio heard the conversation between the 2, the corners of her mouth couldn't help but curl up. She had to say that the new skill she learned underground in Ghost City was still very useful. Yun Chujio raised her eyes and looked over. This barbarian town was really dilapidated. There were practically no decent shops on either side of the road. Instead, there were many crooked thatched huts. There were also very few pedestrians on the road. Occasionally, she would see a few people who were also men. There were almost no women or children. Buttface sent a voice transmission. Little Fairy, did you see that? Women and children don't dare to go out on the street. If they are not careful, they will be robbed and sold for money. The lowly domain is very barbaric. Before Yun Chujio could reply, she heard someone behind her shout fiercely, Stop! What are you trying to do by disguising as a man? Chapter 4276 was too beautiful. Yun Chujio's heart jolted. She secretly cursed Buttface for being unreliable. Didn't they say that the people here were only around the 3rd level of Yuanchu? How could a person who ran out now be able to tell that she was a woman disguised as a man? She had no choice. She had already been seen through by others. It was useless to blame Buttface. She could only brace herself and turn around. She saw a middle-aged man standing opposite her. There were deep and shallow scars on the middle-aged man's face. It seemed that he often fought with others. That person was sizing up Yun Chujio with an inquisitive look. Yun Chujio thought to herself, since this person was able to see through her gender, her origin energy was at least at the 5th level of the origin realm and above. It definitely wouldn't work if she tried to force it. She still had to use her wits. Thus, this fellow put on a delicate and pitiful posture and said, "Because my head is too beautiful, Mother has instructed me from a young age to better disguise myself as a man when I come out. Otherwise people will covet my beauty." That middle-aged man looked at Yun Chujio's ferocious face and revealed a bashful expression. He almost vomited. He was still worried that others would covet her just like that. Even a blind man wouldn't fancy her, all right? The middle-aged man adjusted it for a while before continuing to ask, "I don't see any elemental energy undulations on your body. Can't you cultivate?" "When I was 5 years old, my mother went missing, so no one taught me how to cultivate. I could only rely on catching these saber-toothed gophers to live." When the middle-aged man heard this, he thought to himself, no wonder her mother said that she was beautiful. It turned out that she was referring to before the age of 5. However, looking at her current appearance, she wasn't much better looking before the age of 5. However, he suddenly thought of something and his eyes immediately lit up. He said, "I can teach you to cultivate, but the premise is that you have to join our wolf-killing hunting group and become a slave. Every month we will pay you 300 low-grade yuan coins." Yin Chujio was confused. What the hell was the wolf-killing hunting group? And she was even allowed to become a slave? Dog 2 transmitted his voice. "Little Fairy, the hunting group is an organization formed by low-class commoners with slightly higher elemental energy levels. They divide their work and hunt some high-level elemental beasts. This way they can obtain more yuan coins, which is also beneficial for increasing elemental energy. They are low-class commoners themselves. Even if they say that they want you to become a slave, they won't establish any contract. You just have to agree. Once you learn the cultivation method, you can just run away." Yun Chujio felt that what Buttface said made sense. She was penniless now and had 2 free meals with her, so she naturally couldn't let go of such a good opportunity. However, in order to conform to the impression she had just created, this guy covered his chest with his hand. He asked shyly, You don't fancy me, do you? Whether it's a slave or a daughter-in-law, I'm willing to do it." The small silver snake in Yun Chujio's sleeve pocket was so angry that it almost exploded. Even if it was acting, he didn't feel comfortable listening to it. He felt uncomfortable, and the middle-aged man was even more uncomfortable. If he didn't try his best to suppress it, he would have vomited long ago. "Well, you're thinking too much. Our wolf hunting group just wants to find a servant to cook for us. Since you're willing, come with me." Yun Chujio said hesitantly, "Can you lend me some money first and deduct it from my salary? I want to buy a essence beast bag." That person looked at Buttface, who was beside Yun Chujio, impatiently. He frowned and said, "Although a 3rd-grade essence beast is not bad here, your essence beast is obviously a hybrid, a breed, and a dog. It's not valuable. Why not just kill it and eat its meat? Why waste money to buy a essence beast bag?" "Mixed breed dog?" Buttface nearly fainted from anger. He was an ancient fierce beast, but he was actually treated as a mixed breed dog? Damn it, I just can't beat him. Otherwise I'll kill him. Chapter 4277. Zhen Meili Hei Xinjiu was secretly happy, however she revealed a sad expression on her face. "If it hadn't accompanied me, I would have starved to death long ago. Therefore, in my heart, it is the same as my family. I have no reason to abandon it." When that person heard that, his contempt towards Yun Chujio weakened a little. The people of their hunting group valued loyalty the most. If there was no loyalty, how would they dare to hand over their backs to the other party in battle? Although this ugly girl was a little ugly, at least she had a good heart. She was much better than some fickle girls. He thought for a moment and took out a gray bag and a ring from the storage ring in his hand and handed them to Yun Chujio. "Although this origin beast bag and storage ring are a little old and their grade is very low, they are enough for you to use. I'll give you a discount. A total of 1,000 low-grade yuan coins. When the time comes, I'll deduct it from your wages." Yun Chujio immediately thanked him with a smile. However, her current smile was not at all cute and it was a little silly. After Yun Chujio took the items, she realized that she did not have any origin energy, so she could not open the origin beast pouch and storage ring at all. The middle-aged man also thought of this and said, "Let's hurry on our way. When we rest at night, I'll teach you the method of absorbing qi into your body." "Alright, my name is Sha Wuhan. How should I address you, miss?" Yun Chujio blinked her eyes and said, "So it's Brother Sha. My name is Zhen Meili. Sha Wuhan. Her appearance and name were worlds apart. It would be more appropriate if her surname was Jia. Sha Wuhan found that Zhen Meili was not only ugly, but also a little narcissistic. She was pretty good in other aspects. He came to Mantown this time to buy some sword pool gophers to trap higher-grade origin beasts, so he noticed Yun Chujio, who was holding a string of sword pool gophers in her hand. He was also surprised to find that she was pretending to be a man. That was why he stopped her. The reason why he had chosen Yun Chujio was very simple. The wolf hunting group was just a small hunting group with limited manpower. There was no way to assign a person to cook and help, and it was even more impossible to hire a servant at a high price. He felt that Yun Chujio was very suitable. Firstly, she did not have any family and would not have any worries. Secondly, she did not have any spiritual power. He only needed to use the excuse of teaching her spiritual power to reduce most of his wages. Thirdly, although she was a woman, she was so ugly, staying in the camp wouldn't cause any trouble. It was perfect. Sha Wuhan recalled the purpose and said to Yun Chujio, Miss Zhen, sell the sword pool hamsters you have to me. One is 2 low-grade yuan coins and you have 15. That's a total of 30 low-grade yuan coins. As Sha Wuhan said this, he stuffed 30 low-grade yuan coins into Yun Chujio's hand and put the 15 sword-toothed hamsters into his storage ring. Yun Chujio didn't know the market value of the gophers. Besides, she couldn't say anything even if Sha Wuhan didn't give her any yuan coins. It seemed that Sha Wuhan wasn't bad. Yun Chujio followed Sha Wuhan to a dilapidated shop and bought hundreds of gophers before leaving Mantown. While they were on their way, Sha Wuhan stared at Yun Chujio's beard and asked, Miss Zhen, how did you get your beard? It looks quite similar to the real one. Well, the fur on the rat's tail was stuck on it, He Xingjiu said vaguely. Sha Wuhan nodded and endured it before saying, Miss Zhen, you really don't need to disguise yourself as a man. Your appearance is really safe. Yun Chujio. Chapter 4278. The two chatted as they walked. Soon the sky turned dark and they found a place to sleep. Sha Wuhan took out 2 black steamed buns from his storage ring and handed them to Yun Chujio. Miss Zhen, take a bite. When we get to the camp, we'll have a big bowl of wine and a big piece of meat. Yun Chujio was speechless. It was obvious that Sha Wuhan didn't think of her as a lady. She was also hungry. Although the steamed bun didn't look good, she ate one randomly. The reason why there was still one left was very simple. Buttface and the pretty boy hadn't eaten yet. She took the opportunity when Sha Wuhan wasn't paying attention and stuffed half of the steamed bun into her sleeve pocket. The remaining half was stuffed into Buttface's mouth. Sha Wuhan turned around and saw the steamed bun in Buttface's mouth. He said disapprovingly, Miss Zhen, you spoil your yuan pet too much. You just let it find its own food and you even fed it steamed buns. Yun Chujio smiled and didn't say anything. Buttface's dog blinked its eyes. It hated Sha Wuhan in its heart. Damn it, he called it a bastard, a dog, and refused to give it steamed buns. Just you wait. Sha Wuhan took out 2 more mantou and handed them to Yun Chujio, saying, Here, eat. With your physique, you probably haven't eaten your fill yet, right? Yun Chujio took the mantou and cursed in her heart. So stingy. Can't she give a few more at once? She used to be a little rich woman, but now she was reduced to a situation where she couldn't even afford to eat mantou. How tragic. Yun Chujio ate 1 mantou and the remaining one was fed to Little Snake and Buttface. Sha Wuhan did not say anything this time. After dinner, he said, Miss Zhen. Yun Chujio interrupted him, Brother Sha, don't be so distant. Just call me beautiful from now on. The corner of Sha Wuhan's eyes twitched. He had to admit that this name was too out of place. However, he still said against his heart, Beautiful girl, he'll teach you to draw qi into your body now. This is the first step of cultivating vitality. Sha Wuhan rambled on and on. Yun Chujio felt that it was similar to drawing a spirit into her body, so she immediately sat cross-legged and tried to absorb yuan qi. However, this fellow tried many times but failed to draw qi into her body. Sha Wuhan comforted her, Pretty girl, it's always like this at the beginning. You'll succeed in a few days. At this time the sky was already dark. Yun Chujio could only rest temporarily. She did not know why, but she had a bad premonition that her yuan qi cultivation would not go very smoothly. At midnight, the small silver snake in Yun Chujio's sleeve pocket suddenly began to wriggle uneasily. Yun Chujio was startled and could only stand up. Sha Wuhan blurted out in a daze. Yun Chujio used the excuse of the latrine to enter the wild grass at the side. Yun Chujio had just entered the wild grass when the small silver snake jumped out from the sleeve pocket. Then, a lively and fragrant fruit man appeared in front of Hei Shinjio. Hei Xinjia's eyes were wide open. She could not believe what she had just seen. The pretty boy had turned into a human? A certain someone's current mood could not be described with words. If there was a crack in the ground, he would definitely crawl into it without any hesitation. Previously, Sha Wuhan had taught Yun Chujio the method of absorbing qi into her body. He had also practiced it in his sleeve pocket. He did not expect to succeed in one try. However, his entire person had entered a mysterious state. Then he sprinted away. Seeing that Hei Shinjio was staring at him in a daze, a certain venerable had no choice but to cover a certain spot with his hand and said in a low voice, "Close your eyes." Hei Shinjio followed his advice and covered her eyes with her hand. However, she was still looking at him through the gaps of her fingers. Chapter 4279 was short. A certain someone was so angry that he gritted his teeth. He did not understand why the little rascal who had transformed into a person was wearing clothes, but he was now naked. He directly took out the storage ring that Sha Wuhan gave her from Yun Chujia's sleeve pocket. After using his origin energy to open it, he discovered that there was indeed a tattered piece of clothing inside. He did not care much and directly put it on his body. Hei Shinjio had to admit that if a person was good-looking, even if he wore a sack, he would still look good. That tattered piece of clothing on Di Baiming's body forcefully gave off a luxurious feeling. Only then did Yun Chujio ask, "Prince Charming, why did you suddenly become a human?" "I'm already at the first layer of the origin core realm now. It's probably because of my elemental energy breakthrough, so, before a certain venerated being could finish his words, he had already disappeared." A small silver snake had appeared on the ground. Yun Chujio was stunned for a moment before saying faintly, "Male god, you really didn't have much time." A certain venerated being was so angry that his entire snake was distorted. "Good, very good, he would remember it." Hei Shinjio shrunk her neck when she saw the small silver snake's ice-cold gaze. She explained dryly, "I'm talking about the short time you took to transform. I'm not talking about the short time you took to transform. Don't worry about it." The silver snake was so angry that it was about to turn into a dried snake. "You're trying to cover up, all right?" Hei Shinjio quickly changed the topic and sighed, "Prince Charming, you're the best. I didn't even manage to draw qi into my body, but you're already at the first level of Yuanchu. How can there be such a huge difference between humans?" Di Baiming knew that she was changing the topic and was in a rage, so he ignored her. Hei Shinjio laughed when she saw that a certain god did not say anything. "Prince Charming, put this clothes into your storage ring. Otherwise, Sha Wuhan will not be able to explain himself." Di Baiming snorted, but he still put the broken clothes into his storage ring. Yun Chujio told Di Baiming to put the spirit beast bag and the 30 yuan into his storage ring. Then she put the silver snake into her sleeve bag and went back to the camp. The day was filled with anxiety and ups and downs. Hei Shinjio was tired and sleepy. She fell asleep very quickly. A few dark lights flashed in the small silver snake's vertical pupils. As her yuan power increased, some images flashed in her mind. It seemed that she had come to the right ghost region. When the sky was beginning to brighten, Yun Chujio woke up. Although she liked to sleep late, she had to know when. Now that there were so many dangers, how could she still dare to sleep late? When Sha Wuhan woke up, he saw that Yun Chujio was already sitting cross-legged in meditation, trying to draw qi into her body. He couldn't help but be very satisfied. The members of the wolf hunting group were all hard-working people. He didn't want to recruit a lazy person, even a servant couldn't do it. After the two of them had breakfast, they continued on their journey. Yun Chujio cursed in her heart. This Sha Wuhan was either really poor or stingy. He didn't even have a origin beast to carry him, let alone a flying spirit tool. That night, when she was resting, Yun Chujio tried to draw qi into her body again, but she still didn't succeed. Sha Wuhan didn't pay much attention to it. Many people needed a few days or even half a month to draw qi into their bodies, so it was normal for Zhen Meili to fail. Although Hei Shinjio wasn't willing to give up, she felt sleepy and could only close her eyes to sleep. However, in the middle of the night, the small silver snake started to wriggle again. Yun Chujio had no choice but to run to a hidden place with the excuse that she had a stomachache. Then she admired a certain fruit sprinting again. This time, the certain snake did not waste any time with her. It took out some clothes from its storage ring and put them on. Hei Shinjio said gloomily, "I have to take them off later anyway. What's the point of putting them on?" Chapter 4280 was at least safe. A certain god did not want to say anything right now because no matter what he said, it was impossible to glue his face together. Hei Shinjio rolled her eyes and said slyly, "Prince Charming, don't tell me that you are going to run back and forth every night in the future? TSK, just for this luck with women, I feel that this trip to the ghost realm is really worth it." D. Biming squeezed out 2 words from between his teeth. "Shut up." Hei Shinjio snickered before her smile froze. "Prince Charming, have you reached the 2nd level of Yuanchu? 1 level every day? That's too depressing." D. Biming glanced at her. "It's not the 2nd level of Yuanchu. That's what I'm talking about. How can 1 level up every day? If that's the case, I won't let anyone live. I'm at the 3rd level of Yuanchu." Hei Shinjio, damn it, she didn't want to talk anymore. She couldn't even draw the chi into her body, and the pretty boy was already at the 3rd level of Yuanchu. How could she let anyone live? Seeing Yun Chujia's charming eyes, a certain being wanted to make love to her. However, when he saw her square-headed face and the beard on her chin, all the charm was gone. However, he thought that it was better this way. At least it was safe. Although this time it was longer than yesterday, the certain being quickly turned into a small silver snake. Hei Shinjio curled her lips. "I told you that there was no point in wearing it, right? Aren't you still taking it off now? Besides, where have I not seen your body? Where have I not touched it? It's unnecessary." A layer of pink appeared on the small silver snake's body. A certain lord scolded angrily, "Shut up. Hurry up and go back to sleep." Hei Shinjio rolled her eyes. She still had the nerve to say that. If you hadn't come out in the middle of the night, would she have come out to gloat? However, it was easy to deal with on the road. If she went to the wolf-killing hunting group, what would happen if the pretty boy transformed in the middle of the night? She had to think of a way. Fortunately, when the pretty boy transformed, there was no dazzling white light like before. Otherwise, there would be no way to hide it. The next day, when the 2 of them passed by the town, Sha Wuhan said, "Pretty girl, go and buy a set of women's clothes. $30 for a set of shabby women's clothes should be enough. Also, get rid of your beard. Otherwise it will look really awkward. Moreover, we can reach the camp today so I can introduce you to everyone." Yun Chujia's heart moved. For the sake of convenience in the future, it was indeed more suitable to change into women's clothes. Therefore, she chose a small shop and picked a set of shabby women's clothes. She put it on the outside of men's clothes. After the beard disappeared, she changed into a woman's hairstyle and walked out of the shop. Sha Wuhan looked at Hei Shinjio, who was wearing women's clothing. The corners of his eyes twitched. Although she looked better than before, she was really ugly. The most important thing was her strong figure. With that square head and big face, she didn't look like a woman no matter how he looked at her. The 2 of them left the town and walked for half a day. In the evening they reached the edge of a forest. From afar they could see several simple houses made of wood. Those wooden houses were basically gathered together. Could it be that there were many hunting groups here? Sha Wuhan brought Yun Chujio to a gathering place of wooden houses. There were 7 or 8 men eating around a fire. When those people saw Sha Wuhan and Yun Chujio, their mouths were wide open in surprise. Their target of surprise was obviously the beautiful Yun Chujio. "Boss, you who's behind you?" a short and fat man asked curiously. The rest of the people also looked at Sha Wuhan curiously. Chapter 4281. "You are my ancestor." Sha Wuhan cleared his throat. Only then did he say, "This is a servant that I recruited. In the future when we go hunting we can leave her behind to guard the camp. Moreover, she can also help us cook and wash up. This can also reduce our burden." Only then did everyone come to a sudden realization. No wonder their boss recruited an ugly woman without elemental energy. So she was working for them. That short fatty asked again, "Boss, then what's her name? How should we address her?" Sha Yuan's expression froze. He paused for a moment before saying, "Her name is Zhen Meili. From now on you guys can call her pretty sister." Crack, crack, crack. The bowls in the hands of several people fell to the ground. Fortunately they were all wooden bowls and weren't afraid of falling. They couldn't believe their ears. What the hell? Zhen Meili? How could she call herself Zhen Meili with such an honorable appearance? It would be better if she called herself Zhen Unattractive. Yun Chujio covered her mouth with her hand and smiled shyly. "Aya, do you think him too good-looking? Is that why you're all stunned?" Those people almost spat out the food they had just eaten. Damn, it was too ugly. "Pretty girl, don't take it to heart. They might have eaten too much. Come, let's eat too." Xiao Wuhan was still relatively calm. After all, he was used to looking at her, so he wasn't that ugly. Those people all winked at each other, thinking that their boss most likely had a problem with his brain. Even if they found a servant, they shouldn't have found such a trash and ugly monster. They could put their ugly looks aside for now. What could they do with this little bit of elemental energy? If other hunting groups took advantage of their absence to cause trouble, she probably wouldn't even be able to save her own life, right? Boss, although the words aren't pleasant to hear, fifth brother, I have to say something. This Jeune Meili doesn't have any elemental energy at all. Can she do it? It's fine if we usually hunt, but sometimes we have to walk for 2 or 3 days. She'll definitely follow us. But she doesn't have any spiritual energy. Won't she be a burden to us? A tall and thin man said with a look of disdain. The others also nodded. The short and fat man echoed, Boss, let's not talk about other things. It's not that you don't know that the people living here are all people who don't care about their lives. If our sworn enemy comes here while we're not here, I'm afraid that she won't be able to save her life. Xiao Wuhan glanced at Yin Chujio. Seeing that she didn't show any signs of panic, he thought to himself that Jeune Meili was quite calm. He waved his hand and said, It's not that pretty girl is a useless person who can't cultivate. It's just that she's an orphan and has no one to teach her. Therefore, she doesn't know how to cultivate, so she should be able to cultivate very soon. Besides, she has a strong body and her movement technique is quite flexible. She hasn't been left behind by me while traveling with me these days. Even if we hunt together, she shouldn't be a burden to us. Besides, I won't hide it from you. I only give the beautiful girl 300 yuan a month. I can't find a more suitable slave for this salary. When Yun Chujio heard that she was strong, the corner of her eyes twitched. She had never thought that she would be associated with this word. She remembered that when she was traveling, Xiao Yuan's speed was sometimes fast and sometimes slow. It turned out that he was testing her body and stamina. It seemed that Xiao Wuhan was a rough but careful person. When those people heard that Yun Chujio's salary was only 300 yuan, they were speechless because the price was indeed too low. Moreover, she had joined voluntarily. If she really lost her life, it wouldn't be their fault. However, everyone still looked at Yin Chujio with disdain. After all, they didn't see any redeeming qualities in this Jeune Meili. It was really a waste of such a good name. Hey, Shinjio cursed in her heart. You bunch of snobs. Sooner or later it'll blind you all. Just as she was cursing in her heart, the little silver snake in her sleeve writhed uneasily. Yin Chujio, you're not my fiancé, you're my ancestor. Chapter 4282 would be a huge loss. Yin Chujio was very anxious. There were so many people here. Not to mention that it was not shameful for a pretty boy to run around. The main thing was that if people saw it, they would probably be killed. Go to the forest? Who knew if there was anyone in the forest, so she could not go? Her gaze fell on a few small wooden houses, and then she said, Brother Sha, my stomach is a little painful. Can I go inside to rest for a while? Xiao Wuhan saw that Yun Chujio's forehead was covered in cold sweat and believed her. He pointed at a wooden house and said, Go inside and rest for a while. I will build a wooden house for you with my brothers. It will be convenient for you to live in the future. Yun Chujio thanked Xiao Wuhan and entered Xiao Yuan's wooden house with her hand on her stomach. She closed the door and let Dog 2 guard the door. Only then did she let out the small silver snake. Almost at the instant she was released, a certain venerable once again put on a show. Yun Chujio was not in the mood to admire the handsome man. She lowered her voice and said, Are you stupid? Didn't it only change at midnight every day? Why did it change at this time today? A certain venerable felt like he was bickering in his heart. He was not willing either. He explained in a low voice, I originally controlled the time of the breakthrough, but perhaps because the yuan qi here is a little denser than other places, the yuan qi in my dantian could not be suppressed and I accidentally made a breakthrough. Yun Chujio curled her lips. See? Cultivating too fast won't bring you any benefits. Consolidate your foundation properly and don't be in a hurry to achieve success. Di Baiming could not help but laugh when he heard the sourness in Yun Chujio's words. He comforted her, Don't be anxious. Since your primordial spirit can change at will, your talent in cultivating yuan qi must be excellent. You will soon surpass mine. Yun Chujio snorted coldly, I'm not anxious. I'm just afraid that someone will see your pot during your breakthrough. That is my property. If someone sees it, I will suffer a huge loss. Di Baiming knew that she was stubborn and did not point it out. Just as he was about to give a few more instructions, he turned into a small silver snake again. At that moment, Buttface's anxious cry came from outside the door. Yun Chujia's eyes flashed with a fierce look. She put the small silver snake into her sleeve pocket and rushed out. When Yun Chujio arrived outside, she saw that the tall and thin man, fifth and sixth, was encircling Buttface with ill intentions. Sha Wuhan and a few others were not around. They were probably going to chop wood. Fifth saw Yun Chujio come out and said with a smile, "Beautiful girl, you came out just in time. Your elemental pet is just a hybrid, a breed, a dog. It's a waste of food to keep it. Why don't you give it to everyone to satisfy their hunger?" Although the wolf-killing hunting group relied on hunting for a living, the high-level origin beasts they hunted were reluctant to eat and had to be sold. The two saw that although Dog 2 was small, its fur was shiny, and its meat looked very fresh and tender, therefore they had evil thoughts. Dog 2 was about to explode with anger. Thinking about it, Dog 2 didn't say that it could do whatever it wanted, but now it was forced by these scumbags to ask the little fairy for help. It was really embarrassing. No, it was embarrassing. Yun Chujio protected Dog 2 behind her and said coldly, "Brothers, this origin beast is my savior. Please don't think about it." Lao Wu didn't expect Yun Chujio to refuse so decisively. His face couldn't help but turn ugly. This ugly monster was just a servant, but he actually used such a tone to talk to him. He really didn't know what was good for him. Lao Wu was about to turn hostile when Sha Wuhan and the others returned. He could only glare at Yun Chujio before turning around to help. Chapter 4283 had actually followed them. Yun Chujio narrowed her eyes. This Lao Wu seemed to be very narrow-minded. He must have already hated her. She had to be more careful in the future. Sha Wuhan did not know what had happened before. He thought that the three of them were chatting. He asked with concern, "Pretty girl, are you better?" Yun Chujio nodded and said shyly, "Thank you, big brothers, for helping me build the house. I will definitely work hard in the future." Sha Wuhan and the others turned their heads in unison. There was nothing they could do. Yun Chujio's honorable and shy expression was enough for 10 people to look at for half a month. Sha Wuhan and the others built the wooden house, but Yun Chujio didn't stay idle. She cleaned the camp and washed their bowls and chopsticks. Sha Wuhan and the others saw it and thought that although Zhen Meili was ugly, she looked hardworking and not bad. While Yun Chujio was working, she looked at the people around her. From the way they were working, she could tell who was hardworking and who was cunning. That Lao Wu seemed to be busy, but in fact he was just making a lot of noise and didn't do much work. It was the same for Lao Wu, who was chasing after Buttface with him. Sha Wuhan and the other 5 people looked very honest and quickly built the wooden house. Sha Wuhan even took out some hay and spread it inside the wooden house. He said, "Pretty girl, our conditions here are limited. Just make do with it for now. When we become rich, the conditions will improve." Yun Chujio said a few polite words, and then used the excuse of cultivating to return to the wooden house. This time she didn't dare to leave Buttface outside. That 5th and 6th brother had ulterior motives, so it was better to be careful. Yun Chujio sat on the hay and let out a long breath. No matter what, she finally had a place to stay for the time being. Buttface said fiercely, "Little fairy, those 2 scumbags are really detestable. When powerful, I'll definitely bite them to death." Yun Chujio glanced at it. "Since you're so ambitious, cultivate well?" Buttface narrowed his dog eyes. Did the little fairy think that he was bragging? Although he was very weak now, it would not be long before he became stronger. Seeing that Buttface was obediently cultivating at the side, Yun Chujio also sat cross-legged and began to try to draw qi into her body. She tried a few times but failed. This fellow was very frustrated. Why couldn't she do it? Previously, in the Qingxian continent, because of the strange grass and the heavenly thunder spirit root, she could not cultivate for a long time. Now, the origin energy that she cultivated here was not spirit energy. Moreover, the strange grass did not follow her. Why couldn't she cultivate? This fellow suddenly thought of a possibility, so she looked inside her dantian and saw the situation inside. This fellow almost died from anger. The Guai Chao shook its leaves at her in a smug manner, and the black bead beside it also trembled, and that damned great void mirror also trembled. Damn it, wasn't she in the primordial spirit state now? Why did these 3 damn things follow her? Shouldn't they be in her dantian and not come out? Why did they follow her primordial spirit to the ghost realm? Hei Shinjio felt as though she was bickering with a dog. What was going on? Yun Chujio was not thinking about the usefulness of these three things, but whether these three foodies would devour her yuan qi. If that was the case, how long would it take for her to cultivate? Her goal in coming to the ghost realm was to find the blazing red glazed tile, but she did not want to stay here for a long time. However, if she could not cultivate for a long time, not to mention obtaining the blazing red glazed tile, she would not even be able to save her life. Chapter 4284 did not know what worry was when Di Biming heard Yun Chujio cursing softly. He comforted her. Things might not be as bad as you think. Although the three of them might have some negative effects, but with them, you also have more life-saving means. Yun Chujio pouted and said, life-saving means? Although they are useful in Towering Sky Continent, they might be useless here. Tell me yourself, what is the use of you? After Yun Chujio asked, she saw that the three animals in her dantian had no reaction at all, and the leaves of the Guai Chao had drooped down. Damn it, she knew it. Her life was so miserable. Seeing He Xinjia's sad face, a certain someone was trying to comfort her. However, he heard Yun Chujio mumble, forget it. Since we are here, it's useless to be sad. Besides, it's worth it to see your body, my Prince Charming. A certain someone immediately decided to feed all the so-called sympathy and pity to the dogs. This little rascal never knew what it meant to be sad. The next morning, the members of the wolf-killing hunting group smelled the fragrance of the rice porridge the moment they woke up. Moreover, there was hot water for them to wash up. They immediately felt that Jin Meili was not bad. During breakfast, Old Five said unhappily, Jin Meili, your porridge is too thin. Hunting is a physical labor. Are you planning to starve us to death? Lao Lu also agreed, that's right. Boss gave you so much brown rice but you only put so little. Are you planning to hide the brown rice? Yun Chujio didn't say anything. She just took a pot of black steamed buns from the steamer in the pot and put them on the table. Lao Wu and Lao Lu were embarrassed. They didn't notice that Yun Chujio had heated the steamed buns. If they ate it with the steamed buns, the porridge wouldn't be too thick. In order to get back at her, Lao Lu snorted. It's clear and watery. There's not even a side dish. It's horrible. Yun Chujio still didn't say anything. Instead, she brought over 2 plates of cold wild vegetables. When Lao Lu saw the wild vegetables on the plate, he immediately threw his chopsticks down. Ugly freak, did you do it on purpose? Don't you know that the bitter leaf vegetables taste very bitter? Do you think we're fools? Yun Chujio still didn't say anything. She sat down with a bowl of porridge and picked up a piece of wild vegetables to eat. In the past, this foodie would never have scoffed at such a light meal, but after eating steamed buns for a few days, she felt that such a meal was already very good. Xiao Wuhan frowned and said, Lao Lu, this beautiful girl is new here. It's normal that she doesn't know the bitter leaf vegetables. With hot porridge and steamed buns, it's much better than before. Don't be picky. Sixth brother was a little embarrassed by Xiao Yuan's words. He glared at Yun Chujio before continuing to eat. Xiao Wuhan was afraid that Yun Chujio would be upset. Although he knew that the bitter leaf vegetables were terrible to eat, he still picked up a chopstick to comfort her. Who would have thought that the mixed bitter leaf vegetables not only were not bitter, but also had a strange fragrance? It was unexpectedly delicious. Xiao Wuhan quickly picked up another chopstick and put it in his mouth to taste it carefully. That short fatty, who was also the second brother of the hunting group, saw Xiao Wuhan pick up 2 chopsticks in a row, so he curiously picked up a piece of wild vegetables as well. Then he shouted, Oh my God, is this really bitter leaf vegetables? It's not bitter at all and it's quite delicious. The others were skeptical, but after tasting it, they immediately snatched it up. Only 5th and 6th did not eat to save face. The 2 of them looked at Yun Chujio with even more unkind eyes, thinking that Yun Chujio did this on purpose, just to make them lose face. Chapter 4285 Fierce Tiger Hunting Group. Yun Chujio glanced at Old Five and Old Sax's expressions and sneered in her heart. You want to fight with me? You're courting death. These wild vegetables were picked by her from the edge of the forest. Although she didn't recognize them, she did recognize the Guai Chao. Before dawn, Yun Chujio was woken up by the Guai Chao. The Guai Chao was most likely hungry because it was new and didn't have any medicinal pills. It wanted to eat some medicinal herbs to make do, so it clamored to eat the grass. He Xinjiao had no choice but to wander around the edge of the forest. In the end, the Guai Chao chose this bitter leaf vegetable. He Xinjiao spat it out after eating it. It was too damn bitter. She refused to eat it no matter what. The Guai Chao had no choice but to remind Yun Chujio to blanch it with hot water before eating it. Yun Chujio tried it and found that the bitter leaf vegetable tasted pretty good after blanching the water. Therefore she made 2 plates of cold food. While everyone was eating, a few sneers suddenly came. Tieske Thebas Shah, your wolf-killing hunting group is getting worse by the day, and now you're actually eating bitter leaf vegetables? Why don't you kneel down and kowtow to beg us? Our boss might agree to let you join our fierce tiger hunting group. Yun Chujio turned around curiously and saw more than 20 men standing not far away. Their faces were full of ridicule. The person in the lead had a scar on his face and his gaze was very vicious. A pretty woman stood beside him. Xiao Yuan's face immediately darkened. The other members of the wolf-killing hunting group were also angry. It was obvious that this fierce tiger hunting group was not on good terms with them. The leader of the fierce tiger hunting group, Tu Lai, hugged the woman beside him and kissed her on the face. He said with a fake smile, Xiao Wuhan, what's wrong? Nguyen Lu abandoned you and you found such an ugly monster to be your lover? Tsk, what a trash who can't cultivate. You're really not picky. Xiao Yuan's eyes turned red. He clenched his fists and said sternly, Jin Meili is my slave. Don't talk nonsense. Our wolf hunting squad and your fierce tiger hunting squad don't interfere with each other. Leave our camp quickly. Jin Meili? Aha, I'm dying of laughter. This ugly monster is called Jin Meili? Ugly people make trouble. It's more like Miss Nguyen Liu's name. Where did she get the courage to call her Jin Meili? Xiao Wuhan, that coward, could only find such an ugly monster. After all, the wolf hunting squad is a bunch of trash. Xiao Wuhan and the wolf hunting squad's eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. The short fatty and the others wanted to go up and fight for their lives, but Xiao Wuhan stopped them. There was a huge difference in strength between them and the fierce tiger hunting squad. If they acted rashly, they would only fall into their trap. Tu Lai saw that Xiao Wuhan had no intention of making a move. He curled his lips and said, Boss Sha, fine. You really can endure it. There's only half a month left before you have to pay the bounty. If you guys delay this time, TSK, you'll only be chased out of the thorn forest. Xiao Wuhan said coldly, you don't have to worry. We naturally have a way. Tu Lai curled his lips and said, you stubborn duck. Don't blame me for not being loyal. As long as you hand over that thing, it'll help you pay the bounty. What do you think? Xiao Wuhan said coldly, I don't understand what you're saying. Tu Lai was a little angry from embarrassment. He said arrogantly, all right, I want to see how long you can hold on. If any of you want to join me, Tu Lai, I'll welcome you at any time. It's better to follow me and enjoy a good meal than to eat wild vegetables with Xiao Wuhan. Chapter 4286 was still as blind as ever. The short fatty and the others scoffed at Tu Lai's words. However, Old Five and Old Six's eyes flickered a few times. Others did not notice, but Hei Xinjiu did. Hei Xinjiu sneered in her heart. Was he planning to climb up the ladder? The fierce tiger hunting group left with wild laughter. The camp was dead silent. The short fatty gritted his teeth and said, Boss, why did you stop me just now? That bastard Tu Lai needs to be taught a lesson. Not only did he steal your woman, he even humiliated us. Second brother, stop talking. The gentle-looking third brother interrupted the short fatty's words. Big brother is doing this for our own good. There are only 8 of us, and the fierce tiger hunting squad has over 20 people. If we really fight, we will be the ones at a disadvantage. The short fatty wanted to say more, but Old Five suddenly asked, Boss, there is still half a month before we have to pay the human head fee. What do you plan to do? Xiao Wuhan revealed a difficult expression. He sighed and said, each of us has 5,000 human head fee, so the 8 of us will get 40,000 low-grade yuan coins. I only have 20,000 low-grade yuan coins here. If we work hard, we will still be able to gather enough. It's just that after we pay the human head fee, our days will be tight again. Old Six snappily said, aren't our days always tight? Other hunting groups drink wine and eat meat, but what about us? Every meal is like a steamed bun. Boss, what exactly does that Tu Lai want? Just give it to him. Otherwise, if he keeps teaming up with other hunting groups to ostracize us, we can only hunt 3rd and 4th rank origin beasts that are not worth much. Xiao Yuan's expression immediately sank. He stared at 6th brother and said, if you feel that following me isn't satisfactory, you can go and seek refuge with the other hunting groups. I won't stop you. 5th brother glared at 6th brother and said, big brother, don't be angry. 6th brother didn't mean that. He's also anxious because of the head fee. The short fatty also tried to mediate the situation. Right, big brother, don't take it to heart. 20,000 low-grade yuan isn't a particularly large amount. If we're lucky, we can hunt a few 5th and 6th rank origin beasts. Sixth brother also said a few words, saying that he didn't mean anything by it. Xiao Yuan's expression was cold. He said indifferently, "It's getting late. Let's go hunt first." The others saw this and didn't say anything else. They could only set off to hunt. Before leaving, Xiao Wuhan told Yun Chujio not to leave the camp and to pay attention to safety. Yun Chujio nodded and agreed. She watched Xiao Wuhan and the others enter the thorny forest. This guy sat on the chair and stuffed hot water-boiled bitter leaf vegetables into his mouth one after another. He couldn't help it. He wouldn't stop until he fed the damn guaichao. Moreover, He Xinjiu still had a trace of luck. Perhaps after she fed the guaichao to its full, she would be able to channel her qi into her body. The slaves from the other camps gathered in groups of 3 to 5 and pointed at Yun Chujio. Yun Chujio pretended not to see or hear anything and continued to stuff her mouth. When she had almost finished eating, Yun Chujio went to the edge of the forest to continue picking the bitter leaf vegetables. Unexpectedly, Nuan Lu twisted her waist and walked up to her. "Ugly freak, you are really good at making Xiao Wuhan fall for you." Yun Chujio ignored her and continued picking the bitter leaf vegetables. Nuan Lu said impatiently, "Ugly freak, didn't you hear me talking to you? Are you deaf?" Yun Chujio saw that she wouldn't stop, so she could only stand up and say coldly, "Then how should I answer you? Should I admit that I'm good at it, or should I admit that Xiao Wuhan is still so blind?" Yun Chujio emphasized on, "still as blind as before." Nuan Lu was stunned at first, then she understood that Yun Chujio was mocking her. She said angrily, "Ugly freak, you're courting death." Chapter 4287 I want kill you. Yun Chujio narrowed her eyes. If she worked together with Buttface and the small silver snake, it wouldn't be difficult to kill Nuan Lu. However, if she was killed, she would provoke the fierce tiger hunting group. She had just arrived, so it was better for her to keep a low profile. She felt that since the fierce tiger hunting group didn't attack directly this morning, they must be afraid. Thinking of this, she said to Nuan Lu, "If you are not afraid of Tu Lai coming back to punish you, you can continue to tangle with me. I don't care anyway." Nuan Liu's expression changed. She seemed to have thought of something and snorted coldly, "Ugly monster, sooner or later, you will fall into my hands. Let's wait and see." Dog 2 eagerly went to Yun Chujio's side and said, "Little fairy, why have you been so abnormal these 2 days? If it were in the past, you would have already cleaned up these dregs." The corners of Yun Chujio's mouth curled up. "There's no other way. I'm not strong enough now. Take it slow. There's no rush." Buttface saw the sinister smile on Yun Chujio's face. He lit a candle for the fierce tiger hunting group, Old 5 and Old 6. He actually dared to offend the little fairy? "I can't trick you to death." At this time, Silver said in a low voice, "Little Jiu, it just so happens that those people aren't here. Let me out. I'll use this time to make a breakthrough." Yun Chujio said sourly, "Tiskeithe as expected of a person with a seal. A breakthrough every day. Truly amazing." Di Biming could not help but laugh when he heard her say this. He did not tell her that his elemental energy level had already reached the 6th level of the origin core realm. Yun Chujio placed the small silver snake inside the wooden house. Although her lust was stirring, she was afraid that someone would come and cause trouble, so she could only reluctantly stand guard outside the wooden house. Thinking of the perfect body of a certain guaichao, this fellow hated guaichao. She originally thought that this time she was in the immortal soul state. Without guaichao as a jinx, she might be able to come to Kueishui. It was not impossible for her to work hard to get a little bean out. Who would have thought that this damn dogtail would actually follow her? She was so angry. This was because he couldn't bear to see her doing well. After this fellow cursed the guaichao a few hundred times, his lecherous heart was mischievous. He crouched at the gap of the wooden house and did not look inside. Who would have thought that he would be noticed by a certain someone inside? With a wave of his hand, He Xinjiu fell down a fart. He Xinjiu was so angry. Was he bullying her because she did not have elemental energy? She did not believe that such a talented genius like her would always be so useless. Pretty boy, let's wait and see. The more she thought about it, the angrier she got. She sat down cross-legged and tried to draw qi into her body, but she still got nothing. At night, Sha Wuhan and the others came back dejectedly. Yun Chujio didn't need to ask to know that it must be because she didn't get much today. After Yun Chujio arranged the dinner, the sixth brother threw the bowl hard. Zhen Meili, don't you know how to make anything other than steamed buns? What a good-for-nothing. Yun Chujio didn't say anything, but she cursed in her heart. Fuck, you can't die from being struck by lightning. Boom. A purple lightning bolt fell from the sky and struck sixth brother. Sixth brother was knocked out and black smoke was still coming out of his body. Hey Shinjio, did her jinx skill work again? Was sixth brother so vulnerable? Just as Hei Shinjio was in a daze, she saw Sha Wuhan and the rest kneeling on the ground. Hei Shinjio didn't understand and was afraid that something was wrong, so she quickly knelt on the ground as well. She stole a glance and saw that the people from the other camps were also kneeling on the ground. Oh my, what's going on? Chapter 4288, Ghost Ancestor. Just as Hei Shinjio was thinking about it, she saw Sha Wuhan and the rest kowtowing. After kowtowing 3 times each, they stood up and went to treat sixth brother, who was still emitting black smoke. Hei Shinjio was confused, but she could not ask directly. Sixth brother woke up very quickly, but he spat out a mouthful of blood. Hei Shinjio was secretly happy. He deserved it. He deserved it. Sha Wuhan frowned and said in a deep voice, Old Six, have you been disrespectful to the ghost ancestor recently? Otherwise, why did you get struck by the heavenly lightning? Old Six said angrily, Big brother, am not an ignorant child. How could I be disrespectful to the ghost ancestor? In my opinion, it must be the bad luck brought by Zhen Meili. She's a jinx, otherwise how could I have been struck by lightning? Yun Chujio said faintly, Brother Six, you are wrong. If I were a jinx, the heavenly lightning should have struck me. Why would it strike you? Old Six spat out another mouthful of blood after hearing Yun Chujio's words. He almost fainted from anger. Sha Wuhan frowned, All right, stop talking. Help Old Six into the house to rest. Everyone helped fifth brother into the wooden house. Although he spat out 2 mouthfuls of blood, it was not a big problem. It just looked more tragic. Sha Wuhan and the others settled sixth brother in. Just as they were about to finish eating, Tu Lai came over with a few others. Sha Wuhan, TSK. Even the ghost ancestor can't stand it. Hurry up and hand over that thing, or you'll all be struck by lightning, Tu Lai said arrogantly. Sha Wuhan said coldly, Tu Lai, I've told you before. I have no idea what you're talking about. If you continue to be so aggressive, the 2 of us will activate the ghost contract and fight to the death. Tu Lai's expression suddenly became a little ugly. He said with a fierce expression, Sha Wuhan, good, very good. We'll see how long you can keep your mouth shut. After Tu Lai finished speaking, he left with his men. Everyone was in no mood to eat. After a few quick bites, they put down their chopsticks. Yun Chujio tidied up as she communicated with Buttface with her divine sense. What does the ghost ancestor and the ghost contract mean? Buttface shook his head and explained with his tail wagging, It's rumored that the ghost ancestor is a group of ghosts that cannot enter the reincarnation cycle. Their original destination was to have their souls scattered. However, they met a mysterious person and placed them here. When the ghosts saw that they had regained their bodies, they were ecstatic. However, when they came back to their senses, they realized that the mysterious person was nowhere to be found. They did not even know if it was a man or a woman, so they addressed him as the ghost ancestor. As for the ghost contract, the 2 of them activated the ghost contract in their bodies. Then, the 2 of them fought until one of them died. That was the end. No one was allowed to help. Yun Chujio frowned. That's not right. Didn't Prince Charming say that the ghost clan got their name because of the misunderstanding of the world? Why does it sound like they were originally called the Ghost Clan? Buttface said weakly, What your excellency said is just a rumor. I didn't dare to refute him. Yun Chujio pursed her lips. She was clearly the master, but these foodies were more afraid of the gigolo. What the hell? Yun Chujio suddenly remembered something and could not help but want to bang her head against the wall in frustration. Yuan Shin could break away from the physical body here and live like a normal person. It would be great if she could bring those remnant souls over. Then, they would be able to live like normal people. Chapter 4289 Spirit Soul. Although Yun Chujio was annoyed, there was nothing she could do. She asked again, You said that you activated the ghost contract in their bodies. What the hell is that? It said that before the ghosts were placed, the ghost ancestor left a soul imprint in their bodies. Although the ghost clan has been reproducing for so many years, they still have the soul imprint of the ghost ancestor in their bodies. However, it's getting weaker and weaker. Activating the soul imprint of the ghost ancestor is equivalent to swearing in front of the ghost ancestor. The ghost clansmen are very respectful to the ghost ancestor, so they naturally don't dare to break the agreement, explained Buttface. Yun Chujio nodded. If that's the case, then the ghost ancestor saved those ghosts for another reason. Otherwise, why would he leave a soul imprint in their bodies? Dog 2 said hesitantly, that might not be the case. Anyway, so much time has passed, and that ghost ancestor has never appeared. Moreover, that soul imprint has an important effect. What effect? Yun Chujio raised her eyebrows. After the ghost clansman's essence energy reaches the 9th layer of the origin realm, they can summon spirit souls to help them in battle. Spirit souls can be beast spirits or plant spirits, and this is said to be because of the ghost ancestor's imprint. Yun Chujio was stunned. There's such an effect. Then Prince Charming and I don't have the ghost ancestor's mark. If we cultivate to the 9th level of the origin realm, won't we be unable to summon spirit souls? Buttface thought to himself, you haven't even managed to draw in chi into your body yet and you're still thinking about spirit souls? You really think far ahead. But this fellow was only thinking in his heart, he didn't dare to say it out loud. Little fairy, because the ghost clan's mark is getting weaker and weaker, not everyone in the ghost clan can summon spirit souls when they reach the 9th level of the origin realm. So even if you and your esteemed self can't summon spirit souls, it's not a big deal. Yun Chujio thought about it and agreed. To put it bluntly, this spirit soul was a helper. It did not matter whether it was there or not. Moreover, her priority now was to draw chi into her body. Other matters could be discussed later. However, she did not know what good thing Sha Wuhan had that Tu Lai coveted. However, Sha Wuhan was only a lowly commoner with low elemental energy. He probably did not have anything extraordinary. Tu Lai had not robbed Sha Wuhan openly. He was most likely afraid that Sha Wuhan would destroy that thing, so he used methods to force Sha Wuhan. In the next few days, Sha Wuhan and the rest did not manage to hunt any elemental beasts that they were satisfied with, and the date of paying the human head fee was getting closer and closer. The atmosphere in the camp became more and more stagnant. If they were driven out of Thorn Forest, then they could only go to the wilderness to hunt low-level elemental beasts like the saber-toothed gophers. Their days would be very difficult. Big brother, the day after tomorrow is the day we have to pay the human head fee. Unless we can hunt 2 Type 6 origin beasts tomorrow, we won't be able to raise the human head fee. The short fatty said with a frown. Sha Wuhan frowned and gritted his teeth. If we still can't raise the human head fee tomorrow, you guys can join other hunting groups. Your skills are not bad, they will definitely be looking forward to it. When everyone heard this, they immediately said, Big brother, what are you saying? Our lives were saved by you. Wherever you go, we will go. How can there be a reason to separate? That's right. We were born to be members of the wolf hunting group. If we die, we are ghosts of the wolf hunting group. How can we abandon you, big brother? Yun Chujio secretly pursed her lips. You guys are ghosts, all right. However, according to Buttface, if the ghosts died, their souls would be scattered and they would not even have the chance to reincarnate. This was not even comparable to humans. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.